What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook stream where we will be talking about Elon Musk and why he is going to hell. And also, I have a Hellfire Club shirt. Just want to show that off real quick before I forget. As the demon demon president that's going to personally in a video game incinerate his soul for millions of years. Anyways, move my head over here. Anyways, yeah, we will be talking about not too much about Doom. I just needed something to throw up there. And also, but we talking about Elon, and not just Elon himself, but also the system that has given him the power and the access to resources and the things he needs to do whatever he wants, such as apparently impregnate mass numbers of people in his companies. And his dad is actually been asked to donate semen to create more Elons, which is kind of gross and weird. But everything's kind of going to crap in the U.S., the Western world, the capitalist world, obviously. The coup. There's lots of stuff to talk about. I was just like, got a whole smorgasbord of stuff. Everybody's on the news every other day now. American officials talking about how they're couing and overthrowing and destroying democracies around the world, just like openly saying it out, like quiet parts out loud. That's another way in which the U.S. imperialism is going to hell. They're like really getting really bad. They were bad, now they're getting even worse at this. Monkeypox outbreaks, on top of COVID outbreaks that are spiraling out of control. The New York Times is now standing cannibalism. So the New York Times and Army Hammer are like, Arnold Schwarzenegger handshake cannibalism is great. So that's now, demons are technically not cannibals because demons are eating humans. That's like humans eating a cow or a chicken. So technically they haven't fallen that far. I'm actually part of the reason why I am creating this stream with this topic today is because I have been working very hard on a album. I've been briefly mentioning this, which will feature. It is a fully produced Silver Spook completely metal as hell album. I mean, it is a metal album that I am calling. Let me see if I get my. Here it is. Yeah, I've got two versions, so you guys can vote on which album cover you like better. Okay, so let's see. So we have this one. Is that gonna work here? No, that's not gonna work. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. I lost my album cover. Okay. So we have. Where did I just put it? I know I just put it somewhere. There it is. Okay. So this is gonna be the album cover, version 1. It is called "Colonizers Are Going to Hell." Now, of course, we have an incinerated Wall Street bank. The entire capitalist system, the U.S. dollar, fiat, world reserve currency on fire. You've got White House on fire, obviously. American military crash F-35s. So you've got the Black Snake, toxic jet fuel, both in the U.S., in the continent, polluting, indigenous people's water and everyone's water, and also in Hawaii, of course, dropping it into Red Hill. We got incinerated, burning ships. We've got demons stomping all over your American flag on fire. You got your EU flag on fire. Your Ukraine failed Nazi land on fire. Everything's gone. White Western civilization represented by Greek statues. All of Greek statue Twitter's on fire, along with their Western civilization that was a lie. Everything's on fire. American military just being gobbled up by demons. So anyway, so that's coming out like next week, sometime soon. I'm still like putting the finishing touches on it. But anyway, so there's that one. And then we also have we also have this one. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I'll just put it like this. There you go. So yeah, and this one is like more legible. It's more legible, but I think that The other one is cooler. It actually has the Doom font from the video game Doom. Anyways, but this is just this kind of an aside. So I've been thinking a lot about that because that's basically what I've been working on a lot for the last little while. Anyways, back to the main topic though. Why Elon specifically is going to hell. So look out for that. If also, before I forget, since I'm doing a little PSA on that. Oh, also don't forget Neofeud is on sale. So if you want to help us out, support us, don't forget to like the stream, of course, share the stream around, tell your friends about it. Become a Patreon member. Pick up the game Neofeud. That's 70% off right now. It supports everything that we do here. Speaking of why capitalism sucks and Elon's going to hell, is because he's a nasty money grubbing CEO who's reason number one. The bad hell, not the cool base place where Lil Nas hangs out with gay Satan. That's also in the songs that I'm working on. But in addition, what was I just gonna go to? Oh yeah, so if you want to get an update for when that comes out, well, you can follow him on Twitter. Follow Silver Spook Guy. Also Silver Spook Games for the game stuff. But I'm gonna be releasing it soon. So if you want to get when I release the album, if you would like to get notified, please follow that. Twitter. You can also follow. I have other music on the Silver Spook Bandcamp, silverspooks@bandcamp.com. And if you follow me there, you also get updates as well. And I have such albums as Indigenous Aloha Civilization. That's also about, similar topics, but more about the history of Indigenous socialism, Indigenous peoples, including I'm a Native Hawaiian, so that's one of our flags. Native Hawaiian practices of Aloha Kuleana, Pono, and other Indigenous communism and collectivism. Or proto-communism that would later inspire Marx and Engels, and so it deals with international struggles, indigenous struggles in Turtle Island, including the water projectors, and of course, win-win cooperation. Anyway, so there's lots of other music that you can get, and there's one that's just about cyberpunk. If you like cyberpunk, but you would like the cyberpunk to actually have some punk in it, and not just be, Elon standing, billionaire AAA. Capitalist corporation garbage, the kind of people that like break Starbucks union actions, if you're like, so this is another album we got. So anyways, long story short, I've got lots of albums out there, and I've been working on albums all week. I've been like not grinding. I've just been like working hard on trying to finish this thing. I spent like about 10 hours yesterday, and then some more time this morning working on this. But anyways, that's not really what the topic is. So Back to why Elon specifically is going to hell. So Elon is you probably can take 5 guesses and every one of them will probably be right. But one of them, of course, is not. I mean, and I think there's a lot of thing about like he has a very unusual. His body shape is unusual. Not that there's anything wrong with having an unusual body shape. But his it's not really necessarily that. It's mostly his vast quantities of wealth. Just on the level of like if you go to hell, like I've been talking a lot about demons and demonization, partially because I've been working on this album, watching a lot of Stranger Things, playing a lot of Doom. I've always been playing a lot of Doom. I have an entire song on this album just dedicated specifically to Doom. It's like a Doom and Master of Puppets mashup. Actually, Master of Puppets is the Doom composer used the Master of Puppets as a template. It kind of sounds like, but the hell is definitely very central to Western Christian understandings of the world. Right, like I've talked about a lot. I won't go over that too much because I've been talking about it a lot. But if you think of like. It's the place where evil people go, ostensibly, right? Although it's debatable whether people actually act in that way in the Western Christian world, right? But if Elon's, Elon as a representative of the Western capitalist world, right, has been, that's the thing, right? Which is that prosperity doctrine, right, takes wealth and prosperity, which means success under settler colonial racist capitalism. Yeah, Elon's father is asked to donate sperm to create more people like his son. So that's harkening back to the Umbrella Corporation of Resident Evil. Elon's dad is being requested to make more Elon clones because that's what the world needs. The world needs is more of him, like Wesker cloning himself, or any of the biohazard, biowarfare corporations in Resident Evil, multiplying people, right, and using them, using demographic and biological control of humans, and or eugenics projects as another one of those things, right, which goes along with Nazism, which is the Western, especially American way. And so this I mean, his dad also should go to hell for that. Being an apartheid beneficiary, like Elon himself, also an apartheid, racist, colonialist, colonizer, murder, enslavement, and entire continent plunder beneficiary, right? I mean, it's like those are the people who, if there was, there's the thing about there's something about his shirt, right? And that's now one thing we can say about Elon and his his very, very, very blindingly white torso that's like almost, it's whiter than the blank space on the side of this website. It's amazing, quite amazing stuff. I literally, I can feel my corneas like warping from the blinding radiation coming off of his chest, and I feel my retinas on fire. I can't look at that anymore. But anyways, one thing we can say about Elon is that he will be very easy to cook. He's already very tenderized. It's very, when they roast him over the fire and tear him asunder, not unlike Hellraiser's Cenobites shredding with hooked chains. The bits of Elon, they're gonna have Elon, Wagyu Elon, Wagyu steak Elon, Elon sashimi. It's gonna be very easy to cut because this guy's already very well tenderized, and it's very, it's not gonna be very tough, because he's been sitting around doing nothing, collecting revenue off of his masses of his employees, and the Western capitalist world and the financial system, the Western capitalist financial system that has dumped billions of dollars for free into his pocket to build starships or something that he has failed to do. Anyways, so but it's not his fault that he got that free money, and people keep, things like Tesla has the valuation. He spent $33 million in the 3 months on a Twitter Elon Musk deal. So he would go to business school hell for completely screwing up his Twitter deal. But the thing is, this guy can screw up infinitely. He can engage in a litany of sins against the laws of just good sense, common sense, and business, and and keep his job. So this guy has infinite chances. I mean, he has had. Maybe he's gonna run out of them now. But I would argue part of him going to hell is he might actually have to suffer some consequences now. He's not really gonna suffer, but he's not gonna get everything that he wants from the U.S. and the world hegemon. Which is what he's used to do. Elon took a hit in the Chancery Court. I mean, there's another thing that just happened. He took a hit in Chancery Court and another one in on Mykonos. Twitter wanted to have a trial as quickly as possible. This very public dispute harms Twitter. With each passing day, Musk is in breach, Twitter said in legal filing. Musk team wanted to move the trial to next February so it could run more tests on Twitter's fire hose to figure out something spam bots. Basically, so he's in a lot of crap now legally, or he's not in a lot of crap. He's just running into a lot of roadblocks. He's not really in anything. He's just like not getting his way as much as he used to. Let's see if we can get out of here. We've got Musk was apparently a recent guest on a yacht with Ari Emanuel. Elon having too many yachts. It's already, he got to go to hell for that one. You have more than one yacht. You you have more than one yacht, you're already basically in the ninth. You should be in like at least the sixth circle probably. His revenue is falling behind. So Elon's revenue. So even from the right, the left, the center, Elon is getting whacked from all sides. He reacts to Twitter blame for a second quarter revenue miss. During the related to Musk's 44 billion acquisition. Anyways, let me get off of that. So he's not as much of the darling as he used to be. Like about 3-5 years ago, Elon was the poster child for everything. Right? He was the flagship person for the United States and the Western capitalist liberal rules based order, whatever these people are calling it now. Whatever the think tanks at the Central Idiot Agency is cranking out now, which is not very good. Elon Musk 76-year-old father claims. I already read that one. So it used to be everything was positive. Everything was positive. Now it's not. Suspicious glass order report. He also was in a big hot water for like I said, it was almost like a brag. He's like, I made babies with executives at my companies, and it's like, this is anyway. So it's in that sense like he's not like again, it's not really hell, because hell is just like being a person of color, especially in the global south. That's just, the hell is just like waking up and then you starving to death, or getting bombed by one of Elon's because he's connected to the military industrial complex predator drones that are shooting missiles at you, and then you get yourself blown up. That's hell. Hell is like being the 7 billion people that don't have the privilege of being in the first world, period, right? Or hell is like trying to survive in a kind of internal colony, especially as poor and people of color inside of the United States, especially right now. That's a slightly higher circle of hell than the global south. The global south is like 9th circle, and then there's like 4th circle is like just trying to survive America with no healthcare and no housing, and then dying from monkeypox, right? But for somebody who has had like massive access to wealth and basically infinite wealth, it's not really even capitalism, right? So that's part of the point of why I made the game Neofeud is to talk about with Neofeud, which is a game that's on sale right now, by the way. So just my quick shout out for myself. This game that you're going to watch the short trailer of, Neofeud is a game that deals with the wealth inequality, but not just wealth inequality. It's about a world. Neofeud is a world in which, well, number one, there's sentient machines, and then there's cybernetic. There's a whole cyberpunk science fictional element to it. But then also, Neofeud is a world in which the central banks and the financial system, right, that is behind capitalism, it always has been there, never wasn't there. Central banks and the other investment banking system and the biggest lords of capital and global capital and imperialism, they don't even need to make things, right? Under a capitalist system, sometimes it's called industrial capitalism, but it's really just a non self-annihilatory capitalism. Arguably, it always leads to self-destruction, but at least in the earlier phases, right, like in the 1800s in the United States, as one example, the owners of the means of production, right, whether those are, for example, speaking of Elon, rocket shipbuilders, or railroad constructors, or electrical companies. Private electric companies are bad, but I mean, you might actually have to produce some electricity sometime. They don't do that too much anymore. Vehicle producers, steel producers, agriculture producers, capitalist corporations would have to actually put out some, butchers would have to put out some meat, candlestickers put out some candles, the bakers put out some pies, right? And so the corporations would also have to put some products out, produce some products that are sold, and then the revenue, the profit is the cost to produce plus the wages minus the cost produced and the wages minus the sale, or I'm sorry, the profit is the amount of revenue minus the wages and the cost to produce, right? So that's what the bosses would take in. But there is stuff to make products. They have to make something, right? They have to make like some kind of, train or a food product, a computer, or in the 1800s, let's go back there, they make some kind of piece of clothing, a shirt or something, right? They might have some infrastructure being built. But now, especially since the 70s and certainly since the 80s in the neoliberal era, and certainly in today's world, you can just print money, put the money in your pocket, buy back the stock of, for example, Boeing, don't make any planes or make planes that crash, sell less planes the next year, and then just pocket the difference. So you just print money, put it in the pocket of corporations. You can say, oh, look, I have a corporation. I have a Tesla corporation, right? Have 99% of all be overvalued more than Ford, Honda, Chrysler, Volvo, and every other car company combined, which Tesla did, while producing less than 1% of the cars, right? And actually put out 500,000 cars that spontaneously burst into flames and breaks that malfunction and have to be recalled, right? So you can put out 50 times worse products or no products at all, right? And just have the banking system, right, that just prints money out of thin air, throw money at you, buy back your own stock, just pocket the money, do a TED talk, go on to Forbes and CNN and CNBC and just like talk about what you're not doing, right? And it's all bluster, right? So that's like neo-feudal. One angle of what Neofeud is about it's talking about a lot of things, right? Racism, capitalism, cyberpunk, sentient machines, colonialism, etc. But one angle is the neo-feudalism is a sense of returning to just complete outright rulership, right? Or techno-feudalism was what Yanis Varoufakis, another left Marxist economist and former finance minister in Greece, would call techno-feudalism, which means like it's not really capitalism in the sense that you're taking capital investing to produce products to sell and then use the revenue from that as your profit, which is not good. Ideally, you should make products, produce them, sell them, and take the revenue from that in a worker cooperative and subdivide that and make democratic decisions. But capitalism, at least if you can even have just a slightly incompetent CEO and shareholders and bosses, and you might actually get some products made. There will be a lot of inequality and labor value extraction that goes to the top, right? Which the Gilded Age had, but you might get some products. But in the neo-feudal age, you can have people making billions of dollars destroying products, right? Causing absolute net negative to the places like the United States, which is why the U.S. is ending up in a complete, bridgeless, buildingless, infrastructureless, productless black hole, right? And that's where everyone's falling right now. And that could continue a little bit longer as long as you have global imperialism and colonies sucking resources and with the dollar world reserve currency, just right as I talked about last couple streams ago, sucking all of the world's resources in without the U.S. producing much of anything. You could kind of run on the fumes like a wile e. coyote running off a cliff a little bit longer, as long as you can maintain your global hegemony. But if you can't take 7 billion people in every continent of the world's resources at the gunpoint and sanction point, then you start to be then neo-feudalism starts to not. It's not looking too good. It's not going to pan out very well. And that's where the U.S. is right now. That's why everyone's freaking out, and the New York Times is going, "Don't eat us." The New York Times is saying cannibalism is really cool. Everyone should give it a try with Armie Hammer. Is saying that because the New York Times is run by millionaires and billionaires and capitalists, fat cats, who are scared that the 99% are gonna try to eat them. So they said, "Don't eat us, eat each other. Try cannibalism. When you run out of food on the shelves, eat each other, and also turn into zombies with monkeypox and COVID and eat each other for that reason as well. And if you don't, we're going to make Umbrella Biocorp weapons and jump into your water supply." So I'm not saying they're going to do that last one, but they are worried about where they're worried about where things are going, which they should be, because as I said, places like the United States, along with Elon, in another sense, not just in like who has done what sins, but United States has, of course, I mean, they call the United States the Great Satan around the world. Actually, most of the earth knows the United States as the Great Satan, right? And not the cool bass Lil Nas one, like I'm talking about, the bad one. Right? It's the U.S. that knows itself as Captain America and the leader of the free world, right? So it's actually, they already see the U.S. is hell itself. When the U.S. right, when the U.S. gets on when an aircraft carrier comes over, like I talked about Street Fighter, right? Remember last week I talked about Street Fighter and how Japan is in a bathhouse, right? E Honda's in a bathhouse. The character from the video game Street Fighter in India is in a temple. In China, Chun-Li is doing the big brown kick in a village with a market behind. But the U.S. comes with death. The U.S. comes on an aircraft carrier with jets to occupy and destroy, commit mass amounts of sexual violence to your people, human traffic, plunder your resources. So the rest of the world, most of the planet sees the U.S., even Europe sees America as like this big scary. Canada sees the U.S. as that giant elephant that can roll over us at any moment. Europe sees America as Europe's leash shoulder, and the good little poodle of Europe. Everyone, but Europe is like, I'm a good poodle. Give me kibble. give me some imperialism. But the rest of the world is like, oh my God, they're going to bring us death and destruction. So in that sense, Elon is already in the United States. So Elon is already in hell in that sense. Because U.S. is hell, and it brings hell to everywhere else. Like Vietnam. Ask Luna about how that went in Vietnam, especially during the war and the sanctions and all the birth defects and the mass death that they haven't apologized for. And they're still charging Vietnam for, by the way. Hundreds of millions of dollars for the luxury of getting bombed to smithereens and all of your foliage defoliated with Agent Orange and massive birth defects and exorbitant cancer rates, and then being charged for that. So that's hell, right? So when Vietnam looks at the U.S. flag, what they see is Satan. What they see is bad Satan. What they see is a swastika, right? Which is what most of the world sees, because that's the way that the United States treats the rest of the world. When Hawaii looks at it, they see that. So in that sense, Elon's in hell because he's in the United States. Not that South Africa is much better. Also, there's like in Resident Evil, which I talked about last week, there's a lot of dunking on specifically the actual apartheid South Africa, as well as a little bit, not too much, but specifically they say in Resident Evil, like I talked about last week, they're in a beautiful exurb for corporate arcology, like a corporate city, Raccoon City too, with all these white houses. And it says, and this white real estate agent lady is like, it's the best place to live. This South African suburb is voted the best place to live in the world, and by who? And by the Lululemon, I think she says like the Lululemon H word, the world's millionaires, Elon Musk. So they're already dunking in that one. So I appreciate that aspect of it as well. If you want to see that, by the way, I have an entire review of the Resident Evil weaponization of disease. I have a video last week about specifically Resident Evil, because I'm going to talk about monkeypox and COVID a little bit. But if you want to see that, you can check out that from last week in the video live stream -1 from here. Also, okay, let's go back. South Africa also, right? South Africa also, it's a white settler colony. I mean, the white aspects of South Africa is a white settler colony, you know that. It had apartheid. It had segregation longer than the United States formally. Of course, the U.S. is still informally and in some ways hyper segregated, depending on where you're looking at exactly. But at South Africa, right, apartheid lasted well to the near end of the 20th century. Brazil also had slavery along with the United States. So these places have similarities, right? South Africa, Brazil bears different similarities to the United States. Australia, obviously, it was often called the whitest country. They actually had the White Australia policy, which literally banned anyone from entering Australia, especially Asian and Pacific Islanders, which they call it the Chinaman law. It just meant that anyone that was they don't differentiate for all of our Asian relatives, by the way, you got to be very careful because they don't differentiate Chinese, Japanese, Korean. They don't differentiate Asian from Pacific Islander either. So India, from Tonga, and Japan, from Hawaiian, they're all the same. You're just all Chinamen, right? That's like, that's actually 2/3 of the earth, right? But that was a settler colony, Australia, like apartheid South Africa. And as I bring up, right, the entire United States, what is actually, I think, is one of the most salient facts about the United States, is that it is the world's largest white settler colony. And that alone, right, it's a bigger white capitalist country and a settler colonial genocide based country than any other country by far. Australia by a factor of like 15. Canada, U.S. is 10 times larger. It is way bigger than New Zealand. New Zealand is like 4 million people. Like you can fit, like New Zealand fits in like half of New York, right, or less. The United States is entirely founded on genocide. It is more successful. Bolsonaro, the fascist president of Brazil, like speaking to the Amazon indigenous people that he was setting on fire and still is setting on fire. So that's hell is being indigenous. The ninth circle is being indigenous in Brazil, and then having a fascist that collaborates with the U.S. and Canada to set all of your indigenous forests on fire and then slaughter you with machine guns. That's hell, right? But if Bolsonaro said, the problem with Brazil is we didn't do a good enough job of exterminating the indigenous people like the United States did. That's what Bolsonaro said. And he's a horrible guy, but he's like mask off saying the truth, which is that like now we have like 70-80% black and indigenous people out there. And we have all these favelas. We have all these people. We should have just wiped them out like the U.S. did, right? But that's why the U.S. wags Brazil. And that's why Bolsonaro is going to America to get help to put him back in power. Because the U.S. is the largest, most horrific white settler colony and capitalist, which all comes together, white supremacy, racism, slavery, and capitalism in the United States, which is why it's hell. And so Elon coming from like little hell called South Africa into big hell, that's the United States, it makes total sense, right? Because South Africa, like Brazil, it's very similar to the United States. Very, very similar. Extremely wealthy people in South Africa. Extremely wealthy. Obviously, Elon, just one of them, right? Benefiting from colonial wealth, right? A lot of Dutch and Anglo settlers there, and colonizers there. The older colonizers there. This has been there. I think the timeline's a little different, but you have some of the oldest families are there. The Dutch also, speaking of a place that's hot right now, Taiwan. The Dutch also subjugated both the Chinese, the later Chinese people, and the earlier Chinese, or what is often referred as indigenous people. The Dutch, like who Elon is related to in South Africa, came to Taiwan and called it the land of milk and honey. Enslaved the Chinese and the Han and the Hakka Chinese people on that island, and massacred them when they tried to ask for better wages. I mean, which means like any wages, right? So the Dutch, Elon's ancestors, actually also were the colonizers of Taiwan. People like there's a lot of ridiculous talk. Nancy Pelosi was just there, and nobody in the West understands anything about that place. It's very terrible. It's kind of like everyone has like yellow skin or brown skin. You're just Chinamen. Nobody understands anything about Asia, actually. They just know anime and robot dogs. It's very sad. It's very sad. Watching more anime doesn't teach you actually about actual Asian culture, by the way. You gotta like actually talk to some actual Asians and not just like, marry one like your trophy wife, like your mail order wife, which is what a lot of people in the United States do. It's actually the U.S. is very guilty. The U.S. military specifically is guilty for 25 per capita, 25 times more rape in one country, Korea, than anywhere else. So that's a major problem. But the Dutch, coming back to Taiwan, the Dutch, Elon's ancestors created hell in Taiwan. So when you go, the Chinese, this and that in Taiwan, it's not. This is again projection. This is like saying, well, Castro starved everyone in Cuba, and so we have to get rid of him and liberate the Cubans. Right? This is like saying, Bolivia was just being crushed by the narco trafficker Evo Morales, the strong man of the movement of socialism. Right? This is disingenuity in the max. But like as any hellish place does, it likes to project everywhere. The hell is coming from everywhere else except from the hell. I mean, and when I'm saying hell, I'm saying the actually bad one, because I know it gets confusing, because I have these whole streams about how the indigenous peoples, people of color, and women have all been demonized on the planet Earth by the cultures that have sprung out of Europe, the imperial, racist, capitalist entities, and demonization of everyone else, going way back, all the way back to the demonization of the Persians, demonization of Middle Easterners, Muslims, African people, and Asians, right? Yellow peril, all this stuff, the dark continent, all of this demonization means that a lot of things that we think of as being bad are actually just normal humans that are different from Europeans, right? Like indigenous people having men that have long hair. Speaking of Doom, John Romero, right, is a long-haired indigenous person. So that's that. I know this is a little bit confusing, because I'm like, hell is also the place where if it's a white person saying that's satanic and that's demonic and that's hellish, and especially if it's a white rich capitalist piece of garbage, which is often comes together, like in this guy, then it's probably actually a based and good normal thing. Good chance of it, right? But we're using the hell as it is, seen as a place of actual bad stuff, right? Then the U.S. is the great Satan, right? And then I know it gets confusing, because no, you're Satan. No, you Muslims are orcs, right? That's what the U.S. says, and then they say that the Europeans say that. It's really, the reality is Tolkien said that, because Tolkien was a racist, who wrote books about how he fought evil hordes from Asia and Africa, and that's why the orc is still used to mean those dark people in that 2/3 of the entire planet called Asia, right? Those people on the Oliphants, I don't know what they're doing. I don't care. They're bad. I think they're communist, actually, and that's satanic. Communism is barbaristic. It's terrible, right? So, right, communism is evil, right? Communism, and then all of the world, all of America's actual leaders, right, who all hang around, Langley and fucking Virginia, right, and it's fucking sip highballs with John Bolton. They're all, including John Bolton himself. Oh yeah, no, we go around and cool the world, but it's for the good reasons, to get rid of communism. So in that sense, I know it's confusing, because it's like, but everything is confusing in English and in the Western and in the Imperial Stormtrooper actual empire, in actual hell, like the bad place, not the good place. That's being called the bad place, but in the actual bad place, everything is super confusing, because that's another thing, is all information is weaponized, and so I'm gonna stop infinitely recursing on that point. Neofeud is a game that I have created, so don't forget to check out Neofeud, because it is on sale. And we gotta make as many sales as possible, otherwise we don't have any more streams and no more education and no more Silver Spook anything. So consider helping us out, grabbing the game. But also I wanted to say, as the U.S. collapses, right? As the U.S. collapses, this is not going to be good for a lot of people, obviously. No, it is going to be good for most of the world, though. You got to remember that, like, because people always, people will go, oh, the U.S. and I hate this. But if you really down for it, if you're really down for the end of capitalism, it means that there's a lot. The U.S. is the world defender of capitalism. John Bolton and the another former CIA head just came out and said it. That's what we do in the U.S. We stop communism. We promote capitalism. That's the whole deal. And like, it didn't end just because the Cold War ended. It's so if capitalism goes away, it is unfortunately, as crap as it is in the United States, it is a place that's going to have great shifts. Now, like I said last time, no, if people don't, like, I know I have a stream that has a picture of the word doom, actually two words, doom, horizontal and vertical. But I'm not saying doom or out. I like playing Doom because it's a fun video game. But if people don't doom or out, and then, which is what they want you to do, that's why I talk about, let's just give up. And if you doom or out, things will actually get even worse for you and everyone else. Whereas if the U.S. chooses to direct the flood of, as I said last time, the benefits of empire, right, and global wealth siphoning and resource siphoning, right, as that gets cut off, and the tsunami of pain comes back, which is you're seeing in your inflation and the loss of lots of former revenue and the reserve currency, all these things that it's hard to really see that it's very, in economic and financial terms, it's very wonky and boring and droll, but it has a real impact, and that's what you're feeling as the prices of everything go up. You're just being cooked like a frog in the pot. But now the frog in the pot is going to have a 10,000 degree meteor fall into the pot very fast, which in some senses that's actually good, because if they slowly cook the frog, then the frog, you can just be dead, boiled alive, right? In the United States, it's just like since the 1980s, wages have stagnated, the prices of everything have risen. Housing, healthcare, now food. Education, right? We know this, right? I think I think you know that by now, right? Unless you I don't know, you watch too much CNN and MSNBC, and you don't listen to other normal humans outside the window, you're gonna see that, you're gonna feel that, right? Your life is worse than you were when you were 10, or when you were 20, or when you were 5, or when you were 30, and now whatever age you are now, 10, 20, 30 years ago, very likely you and your family's life was better. And now it's gotten worse. That's the slow cooking frog. Now the tsunami of pain is going to come back because they can't control the rate of change. That's actually very important. You can actually be in a very bad place, right? And you could be in a bad place, but if you slow, and you can get into a worse place and a worse place and a worse place. And people go, why doesn't the US ever do anything? Why has America never had any successful change? I mean, really big, rapid changes that undo their oppressive structures, right? There are multiple of them, obviously, right? Capitalism being one of them. Why doesn't the U.S. ever have any success? They're living in such crap right now compared to a lot of other countries. But the thing is, the U.S. has a ruling class that has mastered the art of controlled frog boiling, or mass population, both consent manufacturing and mental conditioning. That's why everybody's so completely clueless about everything in the United States, including their own history and economics. But also the rate of change, right? The rate of change of quality of life, if it goes slow enough and it doesn't hit the food, you notice that's why it's been housing, education, and healthcare where the inflation has been. There's been a huge inflation, really, the last 20 years, but it's mostly been in the 200% housing cost increases. You have what used to be a $500 apartment, now it was $1,000. And then it was $1,500 in 2015. And then 5 years later, it's $2,000. Now it's gone up 20-30% in 1 year in the COVID pandemic, right? So there has been inflation, but it's been in housing, it's been in education, it's been in healthcare costs. Now the U.S. military itself, the Pentagon studies this, and they actually know when food access, whether through price inflation or because people just can't get access to the food, that's what causes revolution. That's actually how they got Libya done. But that's what causes mass, rapid discontent. So food is key. Also similar in the French Revolution, that didn't actually solve anything, but it did have mass discontent suddenly arise. So you can run out of healthcare and people will put up with it. You can run out of housing. Well, they'll just live in something smaller or they'll just group together. But you can run out of education. Everyone's stupid anyway, and the college system is a private equity wealth siphoning scheme. There's not really an education system. So college is just like a place for people to sit around and write papers about decolonization without decolonizing anything, right? That's what college is for. It's for sesquipedalian assholes. But if you run out of food, Everyone's in this. If your children cannot eat, and suddenly they cannot eat, right? When they formerly could, then people are more rapidly coming with the pitchforks and the shotguns, right? And so the discontent. So that's why the U.S. has always kept the food stamp program is actually very important, because that keeps people from going to a more rapidly accelerating. Let's say what does the State Department call it? The mass discontent and mass uprisings that they use that, right? They're very good at this. You know why they're very good at this? Because they have to do this all the time across the planet. Now they're not very good anymore. John Bolton's like, it's very hard to coup. I tried hard to coup Venezuela by causing mass discontent, by jacking the access to food, by jacking their inflation to 1,000,000%. And you see what they did there? They were causing attempted mass starvation and mass suffering, so people would rise up. The U.S. knows that's why America. That's not the why America. They're like, Americans are so stupid. Even if we make them suffer terribly, we can make Americans suffer like twice as bad as anywhere else because they're so stupid. They'll never figure out how to do any revolution. So, but other places we do color revolution all the time. It's by starving the population, mass sanctions, right? It's like, what do you think a sanction is? A sanction is to try to hurt the crap out of a place. I attempt to hurt the masses of the population so badly, right? By denying access to other basic services. Now, healthcare is one of them. Like in Iran, millions of people died from lack of access to healthcare, or hundreds of thousands at least, to lack of access to healthcare, lack of access to certain cancer medications, lack of access to basic like insulins and basic hospital infrastructure, electricity, right? And that caused a huge, Iraq, 500,000 people died, right? And Madeleine Albright was like, well, that's the price of stopping the spread of communism or some bullshit. That wasn't enough, right? But in some places they do have enough. But the thing is, right? So this is not even like a hypothetical. It's not like, what if stuff got bad in America? Stuff gets bad all over the world, and then the U.S. goes in and backs the far right and installs, fascists and a loyal neoliberal puppets. That's the thing that they do. That's why they're good at it. That's why that's not why, but you're not just dealing with any country. The United States is, this is not like a change in Vietnam. This is not like a change in China. It's not. It's also why socialism with Chinese characteristics, socialism with Cuban characteristics, socialism with Vietnamese characteristics, socialism with Hawaiian characteristics, or circa 1890s. Those are all very different from the United States. Socialism in North America or North Turtle Island is a very, it's not like impossible. It's just like, it's a very different beast, because the people who run it are, number one, the most richest and most powerful. I was just watching the Gray Man. I was going to do a video about Gray Man. I almost decided to do one, but I was like, I'll do something else. It's got too many white guys on the cover. He says, as he puts some frowning white guy on the cover of this video, but I want more demons on there. I wanted some infernal representation. So the United States has people. What did I want to say about Gray Man? Oh yeah, that's right. It's that in Gray Man, you have this character played by Chris Evans. He's like the polar opposite of Captain America, right? Because Captain America is Mr. Goody Two Shoes, Mr. Boy Scout, saving the world, super selfless, super just the best, most stand-up guy. Actually, you know what? Like it has both Captain America and it has Ryan Gosling, Mr. Kendall, who's gonna play a Kendall in Barbie the movie. So look out for that. So yeah, he's gone from Captain America to the biggest asshole in the world with his asshole mustache and his he's constantly like in this really Hollywood's commenting these really ugly polo shirts. But anyways, so so Chris Evans' character in this, he's playing basically people who run the United States. He's working or he was, and he's formerly working. Everybody's working with the CIA. That's what it is. Various departments of it, right? Which is various departments of the U.S. ruling class. 3 of them are like Harvard graduates. He's one of the Harvard graduates, right? Which to graduate Harvard means have a pulse at Harvard. That's what that means. Like George W. Bush. You can literally take a explosive diarrhea all over your math SAT and like just completely fall asleep during your reading and history class, and you get a gentleman's B, right? It's basically because the U.S. is run by incompetent, mediocre, white capitalist man clowns, man babies, like this character, like John Bolton, like Mike Pompeo, like Donald Trump, like Joseph Biden. These are all clowns. These are all spoiled little white man babies, like that guy who is in the Supreme Court right now, crying all over the television last year, right? And it's so hard when people tell me true things that I did, crying like a baby, because that's who runs the United States. People who cannot handle when they hurt other people while constantly hurting other people. And then when they told you're making me feel bad by telling me that I hurt other people, which I did. Well, don't hurt other people. Anyways, so Chris Evans' character, who likes hurting other people a whole lot, right? He actually is he relishes in torture, in fact, and does some of that to Billy Bob Thornton, with let's not bamboo shoots under the fingernails, but something else related to your fingernails, and also does a lot of horrible things, killing children. I mean, all the things that make you not like people in movies full of murderers, like John Wick, or etc., or most action movies made in the United States, which is a place that loves killing people. But we're not the bad ones. The one bad apple who kills children is the bad one. We only killed communists. But the one communist killer who kills children, that guy's bad. That's one thing I don't like about Gray Man, which is like, oh, that's the bad guy. No, the whole fucking CIA. Oh, these are the good CIA. Ryan Gosling's the good CIA. I don't like that. It's kind of like Stranger Things. Oh, we're the good people that fight the underside, and the Russians are the bad ones. I only killed Russians, so I'm okay. But this is the bad. This is the bad. The bad American is the global communism and global South murderer who kills white children or children. You see how fucked up that is. Like, oh no, that's the bad one. Not the people that goes around the world like and does coups, which is all who does coups and starves people to death and murders innocent people all around the world and makes wars that murder innocent people all around the world. Those are the good CIA, but the bad CIA is the one who kills the kid. I hate that. But that's how you can make American movies and tell massive big lies and make people feel like they learned something. So Chris Evans' character though. But anyway, that's a like a high level aside outside of the movie. That's not criticism of Chris Evans or the movie. Not really even the movie. The movie is actually pretty. The movie actually is pretty entertaining, and it's got a lot of snappy dialogue. There's a lot of. It reminds me of Blade Runner. It's got a very like terse, like one line, like like one word sentences. That's like it's very smart like that. I like that. I did like that part about it. But on another level, from kind of looking at it from the aerial, from the 10,000 miles up global perspective, from the based hell, which is the global south, east and south perspective. It's got problems. But anyways, back to Chris Evans' character. He's over there with his asshole mustache. One thing I was thinking about actually while I was watching this is that he as a CIA operative, right? He is torturing people. Ryan Gosling also is getting people killed, and they're the wrong people, or they're being told those are the bad people that you're killing. But he's actually killing other people in his team. But in the U.S., the movies always have to end with, oh, well, somebody was a bad apple, and now that guy's gone. The U.S. Senate and the U.S. presidency is like, stand up, people, and all that. It's like, well, if we could just clean out these bad CIA apples, we'd have a really good CIA. If we could just clear out these bad U.S. imperial, Donald Trump was a bad president. Biden's gonna clean, he's gonna build back better. It's like that's not the message people need. But anyway. That's not the message Hollywood can tell because they're funded by the fucking ruling class of the imperial fucking superpower. So anyways, but I've done enough of that one. Chris Evans' character, is wearing these ridiculous polo shirts, really ugly shirts. He's got this really ugly fucking mustache, but he is a Harvard graduate who likes torturing people, killing people. And there's some scenes in The Gray Man where they're speaking. And I'm gonna tie this back into Hell. Gray Man is a movie about literal demons, the bad ones, like all agents that work for the United States and the entire U.S. military and all of its government, actually everything, but especially its agents for its intelligence agencies that cause coups and wars and death and destruction. So the Gray Man is a movie about devils. That's how I'm gonna make this a thing. In the Gray Man, there's a scene where they're trying to get trying to get the actual scene where they're shooting. Yeah, in Prague, I want the gunfight. Ryan Gosling is chained to a. I'm not gonna get it, am I? No. Action scene. Ryan Gosling is chained to a park bench, right? He does a lot of punching and kicking and running and dodging and getting shot at, right? And so and Chris Evans' character, right, as Ryan Gosling is like jumping off of trains that are in halfway to exploding, and he's doing Fast and Furious shit. Like it's a lot. Vin Diesel would be happy with this. Getting shot at. He's doing kung fu. He's doing all the spy movie, action movie shit. And then everyone, like an entire 10 different teams of mercenary private armed squads, right, with shields and RPGs and fucking akimbo grenade launchers mounted in the back of a truck, a van, are coming after Ryan, and everyone's getting dead, and actually the police, the Czechoslovakian police get into a war with all of the CIA goons, right? And I'm sorry, the bad CIA, not the good CIA, the bad one that has milkman mustache. Now, you know what that is? It's the Democrats, because he looks like Donald Trump's State Department guy, John Bolton, right? Right. So it's the bad CIA is the Republican CIA. The good CIA is Biden CIA. The good CIA is Tony Blinken, right? It's very upstanding. It's very he talks about human rights, and that's how you know it's the good CIA, because they bring human rights to Vietnam. Anyways, whereas the bad CIA is like, motherfucker, I'm gonna torture your ass. Anyways, I'm gonna stop doing that. Get back to so Ryan Gosling's character is being hunted by Chris Evans, and Chris Evans says something like where does he get like 25 goon squads? He's got hundreds of guys with like all these weapons, right? All of the, every machine gun you can possibly think of, rocket launchers, tanks, everything, right? Where are they getting all of this money and equipment from? Well, they're printing it, and then they're throwing it into the military-industrial complex, and then they're spreading it. It's an action movie, but I mean that is how the U.S. works, which is all the arms manufacturers. I mean, who is making all the bullets and the bombs and the RPGs that are being fired and shot off, right, all the time, right? And then making it look cool. Right? The business of Hollywood is to make it look like war and paramilitary action and CIA spy bullshit, and having guns all over the place is a cool good thing. And then, right, Hollywood's job is to make it look like doing mass gun violence, and by extension making the weapons for that is cool, so that the military industrial complex keeps selling more guns and bombs. And the Americans are like, yeah, man, go get them, America, military and intelligence. Go out into that world and stop bad people with all them guns and all them bombs that we're making, right? It's actually very important. It's actually very, very, very... Not every country has a Hollywood. You know that? There's action movies all over the place, but not every country has a entire industry that revolves along with the AAA games, right? Which all revolve around mass military recruitment and getting young people, boys and anyone else, actually. We used to be mostly boys, but now, we have a diverse military of women, non-binary, and male war criminals around the world, just blowing everyone up and killing everyone. So that's why it's important to have, it's not that the guns, games and movies with guns cause shootings necessarily. It's not really about that. It's about maintaining a culture of hyper normalized violence that is actually sanitized so that you don't get to see, because if what you saw was the impact of the violence in war zones, which you don't see in movies most of the time, almost never. Nobody pays you like James Cameron's wife one time will make a movie and then that'll be it. That but you never really see it, right? If people saw what the actual with all those $800 billion of military industrial complex budget was going, people would be horrified and sickened, and they wouldn't want any part of it. But that's not what people get in America. That's one level of the diseducation, I would argue, right? Anyway, but that's a long discussion. That's like a very hard discussion that nobody really wants to have. But so when Chris Evans' character is out there, but importantly, my point is that there's mountains of money that is flowing right into the arms manufacturers to make the guns that not the characters in the movie, but to make the guns that the actual real world Ryan Goslings and Evans are shooting, and all of their goon squads are shooting at and with, right? Throwing it into the hands of ETIM, throwing it into the hands of far-right extremists, throwing it into the hands of Nazis in fucking Bolivia, throwing it into the hands of Ukraine, right? Nazis in the Ukraine and ultra-nationalists there. You see the liberal media, which is the number one manufacturer and seller, especially now, of these arms, has to keep on pumping this stuff out 24/7. Otherwise, people might be like, well, what if we like house fed and clothe people instead of making fucking taking like twice the budget to house feed and clothe people and throw it into weapons, right? And so I'm trying to find the one with the U.S. military budget. I can't find it right now. I'll look for it later. I mean, speaking of the U.S. military, I mean, again, Luna is. By the way, Luna and I are gonna arrange another panel soon. So part of the problem was EJ and Luna were in different places, but now we're gonna be arranging a panel in the near future. So look out for this one. Luna is a Vietnamese communist educator. Burning innocent people's food, houses, villages, and forests is the tradition of the U.S. troops, aka war criminals. So, for people in the world, I mean, it's not fun. It's not cool. It's actually a lot of watching your entire country set on fire and then watching everyone die. It's not entertaining, actually. But that's not what you get from Hollywood. What you get is, look at how cool it is to have flamethrowers. Look at how cool it is to shoot guns and have fucking explosions and bombs everywhere. Look at how cool RPGs are. It's really cool. Eat some popcorn, go work in your office, and write reports no one reads, and do TPS reports, and send emails in your imperial bullshit job, and fantasize about being an action hero. Right? Or join the army. Until you find out what war is like, and then you can go die waiting for healthcare in a VA tent city full of dying veterans. So, anyway, back to I keep on spiraling around the Evans point. So, when Chris Evans' character is sitting there sipping his whiskey, looking at all of his 25 monitors, right, with all of the billions of dollars that the neo-feudal capitalist global hegemon is pumping out based on global wealth extraction into itself, buying him 50 fucking screens, right? There's one scene where Chris Evans has like 25 fucking screens, watching every single person in the city, and then all of his squads keep dying because he's an incompetent clown. Chris Evans is just the average CIA agent. He's like an Elon. He's like a John Bolton. I slipped in the gravel, Daddy. I swear I'm gonna get Maduro coon. I'm gonna stop that communism in Venezuela any second now. Elon's like, how come he didn't coup Bolivia? I want the lithium. I want the lithium for my Tesla. I want all the dead Bolivians. I want Nazis to kill them and then put them back into slave, mines like we had in Bolivia when the Spanish had silver mines. I want the coup in Bolivia to stop socialism, like they did in Hawaii to stop Hawaiian socialism, because that's what we had. With universal healthcare, highest literacy rate, education, etc., near zero homelessness. Because that's why John Bolton came out and said we couped Hawaii because we wanted to stop actual socialism in Hawaii, like Libya, like Bolivia, like Venezuela, Cuba, Vietnam. So Chris Evans, like Elon, John Bolton, and that Fox News clown that came out and was like, I coup people. Please let me be in the next administration. I want another $50 million to throw rocket launchers and fucking RPGs at people. I'm gonna give RPGs to people. I just fucking smoke and drink and have terrible fucking polo shirts that sear my other people's eyes and stupid mustaches. I wanted stupid mustaches. It costs a lot of money to put this stupid mustache on my face. And run the CIA. So, but that's kind of how he is. He's throwing tantrums. He's like, how come you guys can't, Chris Evans' character's like, how come you can't just fucking kill people? And he goes around and just, his own men are all dying because he makes terrible calls all the time, right? Just like John Bolton, right? Just like Donald Trump going, oh yeah, we're going to take the oil, man. Oh shit, now everybody thinks America is a terrible country and you're blowing the mass disinformation that America is a good country, right? He's incompetent like all these people. And which is normal because he's a rich, spoiled man baby who went to Harvard and his parents are billionaires, probably. So he's walking around like shooting people in the head, who are his own men have all died because he's like ordered them in the wrong place. He keeps screwing up. Ryan Gosling is the protagonist, but also it's clear this guy keeps screwing up and making stupid and horrible. It's a combination of incompetent and evil. He's a cacistocrat, not a cacodemon. That's a floating ball of hell that shoots ball lightning at you. I read that in the Doom handbook. But a cacistocrat is a cacophony, right? Cacistocracy ruled by a cacophony, and it's like when everyone in the symphony is playing the wrong note all at the same time. It's like the horror movie soundtrack for the Vavitch. It makes you very unsettled and it hurts your ears. But a cacistocracy is the rule by the worst and the least qualified, incompetent and malicious, which is perfectly encapsulated by Chris Evans' character and his mustache. Now you could have a competent malicious ruler, and that's actually, in some sense, it could be worse, right? Because a competent malicious ruler, like for example, Obama was a competent imperialist. He got more actual imperialism done than both Biden and Trump, actually. So Obama he was more like, there's actually a black CIA agent who is a little better at his job than this guy, right? Which it's kind of like it's the competent imperialist. It's actually a very Obama-like character. He's like, I mean, he's stuck up, he's full of shit, he's an asshole, he's terrible, but he actually doesn't like blow it as badly as this other guy. But that's not really, you don't want that either, because a competent imperialist that makes America look like it isn't terrible is going to ruin everything as well. So you don't really want that. But this guy, anyway, coming back to this dude. So this guy represents the Republican Party. Both in his what he looks like, his mustache, his fashion choices, and how he is. He's just mask off. I just like torturing people, right? It's kind of like, it's kind of like Peacemaker, where you have, harkening. I have the whole video about Peacemaker, where you have the two faces of the CIA, the two faces of the Empire. You have the white mask off, right? I forget where's my Peacemaker. I got a Peacemaker shirt too on top of my Hellfire Club shirt. Peacemaker, you have the mask off guy who played the cop in Terminator 2, right? Okay, I'm not gonna find it. You have Peacemaker's dad, right? Where's his dad? Who is the Nazi? He literally comes out in a KKK suit, in your face racist, just like no holds barred. Like he just, he's like no love for his son. He's just like, the only problem is you got shot. You're too weak. That's why you got shot, right? And he represents like the 50s and the neocon, or the more overt neocon, U.S. That is who it really is ultimately. And then you have Peacemaker, what's her name, Waller, right? Adebayo's mom, who is like that's the Democratic Party. It's like, we're not as bad. Well, not on the face, but then you look closer, it's actually, we're doing the imperialism as well. We're just trying harder to pretend like we care about black people. And human rights, and and so those are the two faces. And the Republican Party is the white man party, which is the mask off colonialist, racist, imperialism, Nazi party, right? And then you have the Democratic Party, which is the liberal party, which is not anti-capitalist, which is not anti-imperialist, which is actually not anti-racist. In fact, as I often bring up, most of the 90% of all of the police murders and mass incarceration of people of color by the U.S. police happens under Democrat governors, mayors, and police chiefs, right? Which was most of the black population is in the cities, which are like vastly Democrat blue. So, but those are the two faces, right? And like Hollywood is blue, right? Hollywood is run by the liberals, so they're gonna make the Republican half of. It's often Hollywood villains are the Republican half. Although things like Peacemaker, I like it because it's like at least it's like being more honest about this and going like, well, actually everything about this fucking shitty ass country is fucked up and fucked, right? It's a little more honest, right? So the movies that are like, we just have to get rid of the bad empire runners. We have to get rid of the bad racist capitalists and get the good ones in charge, right? Those are continuing a narrative that's not, as I said, it's not conducive to helping the world, and certainly not even the people in the United States who need to understand who they are if they want to change who they can be, right? And just a quick aside, patriot socialism is not it, because it's not addressing internally the racism and the colonialism. It's only going, well, anyway, that point. So, but I wanted to shout out Peacemaker again. If you haven't seen that show, I do recommend you check it out. I did like that show. And Gray Man, we just watched it last night. So let me finish that point though. Chris Evans is throwing millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars potentially. It's like, where the hell are you getting all this money? At one point, he's incompetent. He gets so many of his people killed. Trying to kill Ryan Gosling, and then now it's a movie, so it's one dude killing like fucking 300, taking on armies and armies of people again and again. It's a movie, but it's also like in another way, it's very similar to Fast 9 in that way, in that there's this character in Fast and Furious 9. There's a character, they're chasing Vin Diesel, right? Actually similar, chasing Vin Diesel through some Eastern European country, and this guy Otto, right? Is the son of a European government official, and it's clear that the government official and they're super rich, and he can like ask Interpol to do whatever he wants, but he has all this money and all these weapons. He's kind of like a very Azov-y sort of character, or maybe like the Kolomoisky sort of character, very rich east of France. European, but very blonde, blue-eyed, very super wealthy, and ordering his teams and hordes of paramilitary-ish, mercenary. It's unclear, right? So it's like this wash of mercenaries and cops and ex-cops and military, ex-military, special forces, just dudes doing violent gun shooting, RPG throwing, kung fu punching dudes trying to kill Vin Diesel, right? And he has like, I want everything. Put out the tanks, the guns. I want the Millennium Falcon killing Vin Diesel. I want everyone out getting him, right? But it's like, where is he getting all this money? Well, from the United States and the Empire to make more weapons to throw at Vin Diesel, right? Obviously, but I mean, like in the real world, it would be like, where are all these weapons and all this money coming from to go cause mass death and destruction in a country in Europe right now, right? Or Afghanistan, or Syria, or Iraq, or take your fucking pick, right? Where's the money coming from? And it's kind of this like endless amount of money, and endless gravy train, as they call it sometimes. That's just flowing into violence. And so what that does is, like Chris Evans, right? It makes you more incompetent, because you have a problem, throw more money at it. You have a problem, buy more weapons. That guy died, just get another guy, right? I had a friend who was working on games with me. He's like, in Hollywood, it's like when they make movies, it's like, it's like a piece of toast. Like he once said, like, when you're making movies in Hollywood, if you have a piece of bread, like you and I, we go to the toaster, we put the toast in, you push the button, the toast pops up after 30 seconds, and then you put your jam on it, right? And if you were to take a piece of bread from your loaf of bread, put the bread in, pop it out, and drop your toast on the ground accidentally, and you got some like fur and crap on it, and you're like, oh man, I dropped my piece of toast. But you're not like sobbing and crying, and you're like, your life isn't over, right? It's just like, oh well, damn it, I'll drop that toast. You get another piece of bread, you put it in the toaster, you toast another piece of toast, right? And he said, like, that's how Hollywood runs, because Hollywood is the propaganda arm for the military-industrial complex and global capitalism by extension of the United States. So when Hollywood gets infinite amounts of money to make movies as well, they go, oh man, did you make a good movie? No. Well, the movie flop. Well, I don't care. We make money if the movie flops. We make money if the movie sells. Put something, just put something else take some more cameras and film something in the studio. Take a bunch of impoverished, people around the world and make them churn out special effects for terrible garbage starvation wages. Just pump out some more movies. Hollywood, make another one. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it flops or if it succeeds. The people who are running the industry get infinite amounts of this gravy train money, in the same way that like there's infinite amounts of money flowing into stop global communism, right? It's like literally, if you let that communism spread, that could be the end of our entire gravy train called global imperial capitalist fucking hegemony. So you stop that thing at all costs. Stop Vietnamese communism at all costs. Stop Cuban revolution at all costs. Stop Bolivia at all costs. Stop Africa. Stop. Obviously, number one is China. Stop the Belt and Road at all costs. Stop the rise of China at all costs. Stop it. There's infinite money there. The problem is they don't have enough money because now they've run into something that's beyond them. But it's always there is an infinite amount of money because they control the ruling class of the U.S. and the global capitalist structure. Maintain that system. So it's literally, I mean, think of it like this. Imagine that you were, not that you're a terrible person, but imagine you're a terrible person, right? Like this guy or Elon Musk, speaking of hell, right? Imagine you're like the bad Satan, not the base little Nas Satan. And you're like, you want to keep ruling over the earth, but your rule is dependent on stopping. There's these small little pockets, right, of good that are spreading, right? Like, oh crap. And if the good starts to spread, like the good spreads like to you, it's like a weed in your lawn. It's like a weed in your nice garden. And if that weed starts to grow, right, soon all of your beautiful capitalist daisies, and it can grow really fast when it grows. People are like, get educated and they start expanding really quick. And if any of those weeds start growing in your lawn, growing in your garden, your hell garden, right, your bad Satan garden, then quickly your entire garden of capitalist blood roses or whatever horrible thing you're growing runs out, and then your power goes away, right? So if you make money selling these like horrible torture roses or whatever terrible thing you're selling as bad Satan, you're gonna be like, well, I don't want any of that. I'm gonna take all the money I have, right? All the money I have by controlling this entire planet, right? I'm gonna take everything that I have and I'm gonna throw it into stopping those weeds from growing. Because if that weed keeps growing, one day it's gonna come back and it's gonna get so big, I'm gonna lose and I'm gonna not have anything and I'm gonna be gone. I'm gonna be nothing, right? And you don't want to be nothing because you don't want to not rule over the world because you're a horrible person, like people who come out of imperial, racist capitalist countries, right? That's who you are. So you're like, we have to do literally everything possible. Like there is nothing on a higher priority list in the world superpowers, capitalist superpower, than stopping the spread of communism. I mean, you just think about it a little bit. You like. Feeding anyone, who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? Housing, who cares? This or that war, intellectual pursuits, flying into space. I mean, only if we can make more money there. Nothing matters more than preventing the spread of the only thing that can stop you. You must right? So at the highest level of the United States and all of Europe, which is all complicit with NATO, the entire colonizer world must stop the spread of communism. It's obvious when you think about it for just a little bit. If it spreads, if it has been spreading, right? It's really communism was there. It's called the indigenous peoples, and then colonizers and capitalists and racist slavers and feudalist garbage heads from Europe spread around the world and infected it and started growing torture blood roses and plunder daffodils and slavery tulips all over the world. And now it's a garden of death around the world. It's called global racist capitalism under colonial structures. And everywhere that this communism takes root, you lose a little bit, you lose a little bit, you lose a little bit. And every time another communist country roots, it empowers all the other ones, right? It's like if a big plot of weeds spreads out in your garden and suddenly you have a huge chunk, that increases the rate at which they can propagate, because you can't weed, and it's easy to weed out one little weed. Like as somebody who does weeding, if you take out one little weed, that's easy. Taking out a giant 10-foot patch of weed, that you can't weed fast enough to slow it down. It just starts to spread at its own like exponential rate. So you have to spend. Now my point is so what's happening in the United States and in the movies is just reflecting because Hollywood is just the same people who have dinner with horrible people with John Bolton and Nancy Pelosi and Biden and Elon, who they just having dinner going, hey, what movie are you gonna make? Here's the $10 billion you need for your next 25 movies. Oh, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm going around the world preventing the spread of communism, and I'm like committing assassinations and blowing people up and causing coups and destruction and death. Oh, well, that's bad, but maybe I can make a movie about guns and shit that makes you look good. It's called, Gray Man. It's every Western movie. Well, that's cool, but but the thing is, oh, how are you doing all these things around the world? Oh, well, we're going to take another $50 million and we're going to throw it into that. And if that doesn't work, we'll float $100 million. The National Endowment for Democracy, we're just throwing money into this far-right separatist movement in Taiwan. We got one in Ukraine. We got one in, we got 25 in South America. We got a bunch of African. We're just throwing money. Just throwing money. Just throw more money. Just throw money into it. Just throw money at it. Throw some fucking money at it. What are you doing? Oh, I'm making movies. How are you making movies? I don't know. I'm just throwing money at a bunch of underpaid, actual actors and writers, and I'm trying to get all the trans people fired because they keep calling me out for being a shitty white guy. But I keep throwing money at them. Just shut the fuck up and take my money. Here, sign this NDA and take my fucking money because I have infinite money. And so, but that's what when you're a global capitalist hegemon, that's what you have. You have a lot of guns and you have a lot of money. You have get to the chopper with the money and the guns. Take the gun. Take the money. I'm gonna take your money. Give me the fucking money. And so Chris Evans says, "I'll give $10 million right now to anyone who can kill Ryan Gosling." In the movie, anyone who can kill this fucking Ryan Gosling, $10 million. Here, make it 20. Make it 20. Just throw fun fucking money at it. All right? Because that's what the global capitalist hegemons. That's all they got. Is infinite amounts of money, no ideas, and massive incompetence. But they are fucking evil, which is what he is. Child murderers, which is what he is. Like to torture people, which they do. Have no morals whatsoever. He even says that. What your problem is, you have too many morals. That's why I'm running the show. And you all are fucking losers with your stupid morals. I'm the United States. You have morals. You're never going to run anything. That's how we run the world. Is killing women and children all over the world. That's what Madeleine Albright did in Iraq. That's what we did in Vietnam. We just slaughter women and children. You can't do that. You're never going to run the world because you have to weed the world of actual good, ethical, moral, normal human nature. You got to weed that indigenous socialism out. And that means you got to kill a lot of women and children. So you going to do it or am I going to do it for you? Oh, you call Chris Evans with a mustache in? Oh, I guess I have to do it for you because you're a bunch of cowards, right? You can't get it done. You people have any ethical fabric in your entire body. That's why you can't run the United States empire. That's why you can't run the Western world. That's why I do. That's literally what happens. We're not willing to do the things, and then he comes in. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it all. I'm gonna kill everyone, torture you, slaughter you, kill all the children. I come in and I clean it up for you. But the thing is, he's not very competent, but he is evil. And the thing is, if you are willing to do all those things with your power, you can win by being the most brutal, the most horrific, the most duplicitous, lying, moral free. That's what barbarism is, right? So that's the West is run by barbarism, and Britain before them ran by barbarism, right? That's what genocide and taking children and stealing them from their parents and then murdering them all and pouring boiling soap in the mouth of indigenous people like Columbus. This is how the West has run everything, and they still need, at the end of the day, that's why they're giving all the money to the police and the military, because they still need people who are murderers and child murderers and torturers to run their organizations. But the thing is, like, that time is running thin right now, right? And so in that sense, right? So again, that's more of what the U.S. is in hell, but the U.S. is hell for everyone else. The West and capitalism is hell for everyone else. But internally, so anyway, so that's a very important point, which is that, like, there is a very specific important reason why it's always money to undo any country on the path of socialism, even not necessarily socialist right now, but moving in that direction, even moving against U.S. Alignment, even if it's not fully socialist yet, that's still detrimental, and it does still hurt in some senses. Even a country that has other problems internally that's moving away is a problem for a global imperialist capitalist hegemon. And so that there is literally an infinite amount of money for that. But that also over time makes people more and more and more incompetent, which doesn't make it maintains them being spoiled little evil little babies, but it does make them more incompetent over time, which is what has happened to the United States, which is why John Bolton and the Fox News heads of state are the ex-CIA people are all crying all over fucking MSNBC and Fox nowadays, right? I tried, Daddy. I tried to coup the country. Elliot Abrams and all these people, because the money, like it did to Elon, right? He's incompetent as well. Now he's an incompetent, oligarch capitalist, but it spoils you because you don't have to actually do anything. Anytime there's a problem, you throw money at it, right? Oh, I don't know how to, do this thing. I'll throw some money at it. I don't know that I can't make cars. I don't know. Here, have some money. Make the car exactly how I want it. I don't know how to program anything. Well, here, pay some programmers and take credit for them. I don't know how to I don't know how to make rocket ships to go to the moon. Well, just pay underpaid black women to do it, like NASA did to, Katherine Johnson and the 3 black women that put a white man on the moon. Here, just take some money and you do it, and I don't want to do it. I'm a mediocre white man who wants to take credit for black women's math and programming and engineering. I just want to sit around and smoke and drink and wear shitty shirts and have stupid mustaches. Well, you do work and I take credit for it. So you just throw money at it, and then you're gonna be incompetent at stuff. I used to help and ghostwrite for lots of very, very rich white guys, and they're very terrible at writing. And my job was to make, as a non-white person, is to make it look like they're good at things. There's lots of people who have lots of money and it's sad because for those people, it's a disease of the heart and of the mind. You might actually have been better at something if you didn't have so much money to make your problems go away, Not to say that people should have problems necessarily, but like there's this thing that, and so it's the same. It's similar for the people who run the empire, right? Which is they're getting more and more incompetent because they can just throw money at problems. Well, they should learn that they can't just. But anyway, it's enough psychoanalysis of those people. But but I like the scene where he's like just throwing money and money and money and money and money and money and money, and everyone just keeps dying, right? It's very much emblematic of where the U.S. is, right? And so let's get out of that. It's already 12:45. I don't want to spend. I'm trying to make shorter streams now because I got to save some voice for other things, and I got to do other things. But speaking of that, let's come. Since I talked about Mr. Bolton today. Speaking of coups, today former CIA Director James Woolsey laughs when Laura Ingraham asks if the U.S. has tried to meddle in other countries' elections, and he says, probably, but for the good of the system and to avoid communists from taking over. So that's why my point. Usually they don't say that, but it's like, no, that is what the U.S. and its highest actual ruling class is set, programmed for, and that is their job description, to stop the spread of communism. That's why I made Decolonizers, right? It opens with the most important parts about the Vietnam War. It was a genocidal war, a atrocity, a war crime, massive war crime to prevent the spread of communism, right? And then the interviewer says, "Do we do it now?" Oh, yeah, only for a good cause, though. So this is like the second person in, like, you know, this is only like in less than a week. Everyone's coming out talking about all these coups we're doing, all this preventing of communism we're doing. Where's the other one with John Bolton? Let's see. The other one recently we have John Bolton. No, there it is. John Bolton admitted. Let's see. Yeah, it's in this thread. Yeah, John Bolton admitted the same thing. Hawaii had a 98% literacy rate, mass worker co-ops, Asian Pacific cooperation, and anti-imperialist stance, nearly zero homelessness, free healthcare, all the stuff the U.S. tries to coup Bolivia, Libya, Vietnam, Cuba, China, etc. over. This was John Bolton the other day. John Bolton came up on this. You saw this, right? He came out. I talked a little bit about it in one of the streams. John Bolton roasts his ex-boss Trump on his inability to plan a successful coup. Then Bolton openly admits to having planned the illegal overthrow of the Venezuelan president Nicolas Maduro. Trump and Bolton are criming while Gringo getting away with it. That's from indigenous leftist Nick Estes of the Red Nation. As somebody who has helped plan the coup d'etat, not here. Also, I wanted to point this out. John Bolton is like old Chris Evans. Look at his mustache. It's the same mustache. That's what Evans is. Evans is like. So I said, right? Didn't I say that Evans is like the Republican neocon, whiny, incompetent Mike Pompeo CIA, and literally he looks just like John Bolton. But like John Bolton is like Bolton is like an older, grayer Chris Evans in the movie, not Chris Evans the person, but in the Gray Man. Where the fuck is he? Yeah, look at him. Look at that. Look at that mustache. Look at that. Look at this Harvard Don dickhead, Mr. Skull and Bones, and then look at this. Does it look like the same guy, but just older? Got some glasses now. He probably flunked out of Harvard too, but got a gentleman's B. He's like, well, yes, I was very busy, doing hazing rituals and sexually harassing women at Harvard, and that was hard work. I was going to skiing in the Alps all the time, and just like I did a little rowing with the Winklevoss, the Winklevi, hung out with Mark Zuckerberg. That was hard work. I didn't have time to do math or science or history or English, so I told my daddy to give me a B+. Anyway, that's John Bolton though. So John Bolton. And my point is that this also I want to say another point as well as a native Hawaiian, right? On the more serious note, as a native, not that all this isn't serious, but let me turn off my filter here real quick. So, as a native Hawaiian, again, this is like more evidence for another point I want to bring up, which is that Hawaii is a place that actually did have socialism and spreading communism, right? If communism is a weed for evil people, right, or capitalism is a weed in the garden of win-win cooperation and actual existing communism and mutual aid, etc. Hawaii was couped in 1893 to prevent our growing communism, confirms. Because they say that's why we do these things. That's why we meddle in other people's elections and governments, right? So by that extension, I've said this many times, right? Because people go, Hawaii was a monarchist, it was capitalist, it was this and that, this. If Hawaii actually was those things, the U.S. would not be doing coups, because that, like multiple CIA directors, and not just now, historically, they've always said this. Nobody pays attention. Because nobody has any capacity for rational, actual, empirical, actual dialectical thought in the West. But if they did, they would look at the hit pattern and the history, and that's how you know. Because people in Hawaii are scared to talk about socialism, because Hawaii is unfortunately one of the most American places in the world. and they're all scared to death that they're all going to be not seen as American, and which means to be American means to be pro-capitalist. Remember that. There is no such thing as American socialism. There's only some sock dem bullshit with Bernie Sanders over there. As patriot socialism is Nazism. It's called German. It's like German National Socialism. It's not really. You know, the U.S. ruling the people. There is no democracy. The U.S. is a giant, fraudulent. It's the richest people in Silicon Valley. The billionaires of New York hanging out in a 200-story floor of Mr. Bloomberg's luxury penthouse, and DC and Langley and a bunch of spooks hanging around K Street. That's the U.S. Everyone else is incidental cattle. You're just dead. They're just hungry little losers. That's what all of the masses of the U.S. to the U.S. actual U.S. which is not a democracy. It's not your country. You're just some clown. You're just cannon fodder. The U.S. exists to maintain global capitalism. It will never be a socialist country. I mean, let me be really clear about that. There might be something else like there, but I mean, the U.S. it keeps telling you this again and again and again. That's the only reason why we're here. Don't you get it? We're never going to be socialist. We exist to stop the world's socialism. You think we're going to be you must be kidding yourself. In fact, before we get close to that, we'll make all of our people in America fascist before we'll get close to socialism. I'm not saying that there'll never be socialism in the U.S., but I mean, that's they keep telling you this over and over and over. That's why, like, things like patriot socialism. I mean, there may be people like in the place that is called the United States that are not that, but like the country itself, to believe you can just like sidestep this whole issue and just be like, well, we're gonna be patriot socialists. The U.S. will make America patriot Nazis before they let a patriot socialist movement make an actual socialist United States. And that's what they it's not even like a hypothetical. They've done this in the 1870s. They did this to a large extent in the mid 20th century. This is not some kind of mystery, right? The white man's party is the white racist, capitalist, misogynist party, and that's the Nazi party. When it gets really bad, they turn into the Nazi party. So Mussolini gave the first, pensions and benefits, the masses. That was from Mussolini. He actually originated that, and that whole system and structure is not to say that you shouldn't have pensions and benefits, but it was a buying off collaboration between white male capital and white male work that creates this and which is a lot of times it ends up being fascism, right? That creates this emergency escape valve when things get too close to change, which is why you have to include decolonization and the undoing of racism. It's not just IDPO. It's actually about, you have to undo all of this together. Anyways, but enough about that. So in 1893, to prevent growing communism, Hawaii was illegally occupied. It was a U.S.-backed coup, just like they do all over the world, right? To prevent the spread of communism, just like this guy is saying. And so I want to make that point. So more on socialist Hawaii that had the world's highest literacy rate, world's first universal healthcare, invented submarines before Jules Verne published 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So, in case people are like, what are you talking about, Silver Spook? I never heard that before. So this is a thread just for you. You can go read it. Many Americans think that Hawaii lived in huts prior to colonization. The U.S. actually deindustrialized Hawaii. Hawaii already had electricity, mass transit, railroads. Elon Palace had electric lights before the White House. This is from the newspaper. This is the railroads. And again, mass accessible transit and very affordable is another signifier of socialism. Like, I don't know, Laos, Vietnam, China, the world that has super advanced high-speed trains, right? Mass public transit as opposed to private capitalist car transit, which is why America is way behind. And Europe is even behind Asia when it comes to public transit. Public transit is inherently not beneficial to capitalism nearly as much as private transit. It's another reason why the most capitalist country is full of fucking cars and intentionally demolished the public transit. So I would actually argue this is one of the symbols, but also Hawaii was more advanced than America before the overthrow. Hawaii also had a higher literacy rate than the U.S. and Europe before colonization, banning of our language and culture, erasure of history, and ghettoization. Hawaiians were often trilingual, and as I said, Hawaii had a 98% literacy rate that made the rest of Europe look like a shambles. But that's because Hawaii had socialism, right? What did Libya have when it was on the socialist path with Gaddafi before the U.S.? Oh, that's right. Sodomized him with a bayonet, murdered him, and Hillary Clinton cheered, along with France, right? They had a super high, sudden acceleration of mass literacy and education, right? What did Hawaii have? High quality universal education. This is just, nobody talks about this, but I'm saying Hawaii was the most successful socialist country, even though it didn't formally say that out loud because it didn't want the U.S. to do what it later did. You know, that's the very difficult that was a very difficult world Hawaii had to navigate in the 1800s, even more difficult than the 1900s, I argue, right? So, but Hawaii, in terms of the concrete, I was talking to one of my another socialist Hawaiian, Kanaka socialist, you should follow, Limahana, but Hawaii was, what it was projecting was, we have a monarchy, we are pro-European, we're dressing like Europeans, we have European buildings, look, we have a palace, right? But concretely, by the numbers, what Hawaii was practicing was what Cuba, Vietnam, China, Libya, etc. were doing. So it's actually like you have to, but the reason why they were displaying, right, the wallpaper was, we're like Europeans, civilized monarchies with 21 gun salutes, and we have eyepieces, and we have, look at the cloak and look at the, right? But the inside actually was practicing socialism. So that's something that colonizer and trolls and right-wingers and centrists and racists will come at Hawaiians and go, well, Hawaii was a monarchy. You know, you guys were reactionary. You guys had a capitalism. It's like telling Vietnam, you guys have some private businesses and you have some billionaires. That means you're bad. You're not, you know, you're too capitalist to be socialist, you know, right? From your imperial metropole that's trying to coup every country on the face of the earth. In the United States, you're telling the Vietnamese people, oh, Cuba has private businesses too. Oh, Cuba is terrible. Cuba's bad. We have to go help Cuba out. I support the U.S. helping Cuba out. Because one time Cuba has a private business, right? Take your pick. There's some, I mean, because, you know, that's the world we live in. It's not fucking utopia yet. But importantly, Hawaii, by the concrete, you have to look at the concrete material reality on the ground, right? Because, especially in the 1800s, because even looking communism was savagery. Literally. That's what they called the indigenous people of Turtle Island. The Hawaiians are very, very, that part of it having a 90% literacy rate is you read about what the US, Europeans, and capitalists did to the indigenous people, who explicitly called them collectivist, communist, savage Indians. Civilization and capitalism in the Western mind was synonymous with capitalism. Let me say that again. Civilization and capitalism were synonymous, and savagery or indigeneity and communism were synonymous. Read the Department of Indian Affairs, actual statements. You know? So, by extension, if you are a Hawaiian indigenous person and you want to practice your values, which are not broken, fucked up, hierarchical, unjust, win-lose, racist, capitalist values, right? You want to practice your actual indigenous values. But you don't want to be destroyed by these mega powers that have wiped an entire continent out, multiple continents. You have to project that you're civilized with, look, we have a monarchy. Oh, we have private business. Yeah. Look at all this stuff that we have. And then it's kind of like Hawaiians also projected that they were Christian, but they actually practiced their own our own worship of our own gods and our practice of our own spirituality and ritual and religious practices secretly. The Christianity was because to be civilized, also civilized meant capitalist, civilized meant Christian. You see how? So when people come back and they go, "Oh, the Hawaiians were all bad because they were just like monarchists and they were monarchists and they had a private business one time." And 1893 was America helping Hawaii by cooing them and bringing democracy and freedom and modernization to Hawaii, right? but again, there's so many layers to unravel, right? But you have to have people that actually like care to like read any actual factual things, which is mostly not Western written things, because everything, again, it's a major problem. Most of the things you can read that are on the New York Times bestseller list are full to the brim of lies, half-truths, and complete fabrications and whole cloth bullshit. So you have to like find some, I know it's hard, but you have to like find some place where there's true information, like, I don't know, like an Asian country. That's why, think about this. Why is it that you don't know anything about Asians? Why is it you don't know anything about 2/3 of the world? There's a very good reason why. Because if you learned anything about it, the weed would spread. Because there might be true information in your brain rather than you read shit from your own professional liars that run the entire textbook writing system, the formal and informal education system, the entire news media, the political system, and everything else, right? So, I mean, I'm not saying that as somebody who was raised in the United States. There's, you know, raised to be a good American with 3/5 of a human characteristics because I'm a brown Hawaiian. Don't count as human, really, not quite. Until we need you to, all right? When we don't need you to, we discard you. I didn't learn anything I went to very expensive schools. I learned how to say words and sound and bullshit. You know, I try to not bullshit as much as possible. I learned how to talk like I sound like I know what I'm talking about, and write like I sound like I know what I'm talking about, without actually knowing a lot about the world, because that's what $20,000 a year schools teach you to do, and not just those. Well, the public schools don't teach you anything except how to pray and not do CRT, which is banned in most states actually, and not just Florida and Texas. But the private schools teach you how to seem like you know what the fuck you're talking about without knowing it, or maybe knowing some things and then lying. That's what they teach you how to do. They don't actually teach you anything. You have to go to like a socialist country for that. So that's why you gotta like you follow Noi, because you're never gonna learn anything. So anyways, but back to this point. So, you know, so Hawaii had these things. I want to make it even more explicit. I've talked this before, but in the context of socialism, if you look at the concrete material, you know, the material reality of Hawaii, which is something that Western leftists don't often care about too much, sadly, because a lot of people are LARPers. If you look at the things that Libya was doing, which is why the U.S. couped Libya: free healthcare, free electricity, free education, free interest-free loans, near universal housing, with newlyweds receiving $50,000 to find a place when they get, you know, basically you basically get a place to live when you get married for your family. $5,000 for birth of child, citizens receiving percentage of all oil sales. So nationalized resources to benefit the masses, government subsidies for your car, unemployed Libyans receiving average salary for their profession and benefits. Again, very important. 25% of Libyans were literate. Afterwards, 83%. Similar statistics in Bolivia. Similar statistics in Venezuela. So everywhere you find a socialism, you find the same pattern. It's not a mistake, right? The most successful economy in all of South and Central America ever was Bolivia. After it got on the socialist path with change led by indigenous socialist led movimiento a socialism, and that's when you saw that kind of skyrocketing, and also productivity of the economy as well. Greatest economic and literacy and healthcare and housing success ever in Bolivia, in all of South and Central America. People wanting to be farmers would be given land, house, equipment, seeds, and livestock, all for free. Students would be paid the average salary for a profession they were studying for. So again, importantly, literacy rate, right? Healthcare, education, basic needs. Electrification is actually important for a lot of reasons. One of them is it helps you to read at night. It's one of the things people don't think about, who have access to electricity their entire life. You don't think about how important it is to have electricity when you don't have it. Like most of Africa actually don't have access to any electricity because of colonial capitalism and imperialism, right? But when people start getting access to these things, you see these huge benefits, and that's how you can tell and that's why the U.S. went in with the Libyan war, where literally they made the economy scream. That wasn't enough, and then they said, because Libya actually was getting back on track, and Hillary Clinton herself said, send the U.S. jets in and blow that country up. And they bombed it into the Stone Age, and now they have huge poverty, destruction, havoc, chaos, and they have slave markets in Libya now. And it's a complete, one of the most horrific crimes against humanity of the 21st century. The U.S. has all of them, basically. So why did the U.S. do that? It's the same reason, right? Why does Mustache Man, right, the real world one, why does Mr. Mustache Man, where's Mustache Man? Why does Bald Head CIA Man, right? Why does Mustache Man go to places like Venezuela and Libya and Bolivia and Hawaii and Vietnam and Cuba? What are they doing there? What are they interfering for there? Right? They interfere to stop the spread of communism. And they're saying it out loud. Right? That guy's saying it out loud. This guy's saying it out loud. Right? Only we try to avoid communists taking over. Right? So when Libya was, and so Hawaii by extension, right? What did Hawaii do at the same time? What did Hawaii do 100 years before Libya? Or 200, almost 130, 40 years before Libya? World's first universal healthcare, free healthcare, mass electrification, electricity before the White House, world's highest literacy rate, 98%. Hawaii was a greater literacy rate than even Bolivia. Even Libya. And that was 150 years ago. It was a non-white country. A lot of Asian and Pacific Islanders with the vastly higher literacy rate. I mean, just think that fact alone would it be enough for Europe and America to want to coup Hawaii and destroy that. We cannot have these little monkeys reading. What if black slaves? What if Jim Crow? What if the racially uneducated peoples? What if peoples of non-white? What if non-white peoples in the U.S. or non-white peoples in Australia or non-white peoples in Canada, non-white people around the world? What if non-white people in Africa learned about Hawaii and how they have a 98% literacy rate? Right? What if all these other Pacific and Asian and African and all of our black subjugated populations found out there's a whole country that is smarter than all of the other Western countries combined? That's enough to want to destroy that. Imagine you're like a Vanderbilt. Imagine you're a Roosevelt. Imagine you're just a white settler trying to make it under racialized capitalism in America in the 1800s. You're like, fuck that country. We can't let them take an inch or they'll take a mile. We can't let our personal slaves, indentured servants and prison workers read a book, let alone read more books than us and write more books than us and invent more technology than us. This cannot stand. So technology, right, that benefits the masses of people, public mass transit, right? Like today's public mass transit in China, that Americans go there and then they come back to America and they weep for how terrible the highways that are already crap are falling apart. They got no high-speed rail. The HART system in San Francisco is screeching like a banshee. New York subways sound like they're going to fall apart, covered in rust and mountains of layers of graffiti and dead rats and all the dead homeless people. And you have this super advanced high-speed rail that's publicly accessible, and America has a bunch of exploding Teslas. It's actually very important that Elon Musk is in the electric vehicle. That's not to say electric vehicles are bad, but it's very important that he's specifically in that one, not in electric public mass transit industry. The reason why he's not in the electric public mass transit industry is because public mass transit is not as beneficial to capitalists who want to sell and make the most money, right? Public mass transit is not as beneficial as vehicles, private vehicles. So Hawaii having a public mass transit system is very important as well. Inventing submarines, predating Jules Verne, citizenship for black and Asians while U.S. had slaves and Canada was segregated. China, the most successful socialist country today that U.S. cannot stop. Doesn't matter how many times Nancy Pelosi flies to Taiwan. It doesn't matter how many missiles you have. I just read an article today that, speaking, I'll come back to that. Let's finish. Sun Yat-sen used Hawaii as the current leader. Sorry, the father of modern China used Hawaii as a model of a technologically modern, politically independent, anti-imperialist, socialist China, and that's from the libertarian billionaire American right-wing rag called Wikipedia. In fact, that has actually erased entire actual leftist articles off of their site. Leading revolution organized in China. sorry, so the path of socialism in China was inspired by and inspired by, modeled on, and organized from socialist Hawaii. It's actually, people, it's hard, nobody, you don't learn about this stuff, but one of my fellow native Hawaiians, Lee Mahana, is currently working on a book called Kanaka Socialism that's going to talk all about this. So look out for that. While you wait for that, you can subscribe to, you can follow, at Kanaka Socialist to learn more about this stuff. And there's a new channel and there's a whole book coming out that's going to be all about this stuff. I don't have time to write books. That's why I'm like, you take stuff. I'm gonna tell you, I can drop you information, watch the streams, watch the panels. I'm going to do more with Luna Oi soon. And you write the book, cause I don't have time to do that. I got to keep this fucking boat going. Got lots of responsibilities to take care of, which is why the streams are getting shorter too. Anyways, so back to this though. So Hui system of worker cooperatives, which avoided Western capitalist banks and businesses, like I've already talked about many times, right? So this is not mysteries. These are things that places like Vietnam and even the Basque region of Spain, the most successful places where socialism is really working out, also have a blended state-owned enterprises under a socialist, for the benefit of all the population, government, in combination with ideally cooperatively non-capitalist businesses for the things that cannot be managed as well, for things that are not as, like, let's just say stable as the public enterprises. For example, like electricity, right? Like state-owned in China, for example, the SOEs, state manages the basic infrastructure, the electric, energy, like a lot of agriculture, and managing like the green spaces and nature, and a variety of other things like that, right? And then there are Huawei, the world's largest cooperative, I think by valuation and importance, is 98,000. But it's for like things that require a lot of innovation and rapid change and invention and ingenuity. Not ingenuity. Not to say other places don't have ingenuity, but places that are very nascent and future oriented and require experimentation. Those are not necessarily government managed. Those are incubated, but ideally under cooperative circumstances, or with extremely heavy socialist central government. There's this actual Communist Party cadres like that are installed into every corporation in China. This is how they can rapidly root out corruption, and they have executed 15 billionaires. They have arrested hundreds of thousands of executives, business managers, all your crappy bosses and abusers. These people get like gone, not always instantly, like, because it's a big place, lots of government, it's a very diverse place as well. But like things when people are actually committing actual crimes and acts, like a drastic exploitation, or even the 996 thing. I mean, there were bad things happening a lot of, especially the big old cities, which have the most colonial and capitalist roots planted in them, like in the Shanghai's and in the in the Hong Kong has its colonial history. These places. There's always a fight between the central government that's trying to stop this corruption and this abuse, but generally it's in the United States. There's no contest. The billionaires and the imperialists just own the entire United States. There's not even a question. They're just like, how much, daddy? And then you pay off the government official, and then you get your way, right? But it's like there's actually like, if there is gross abuse and destruction of people's livelihoods, if there's mass suffering, being caused by the exploitation, right? There's not a guarantee that you're going to get it addressed, but it's like they do address, and they have guarantees for healthcare, housing. Every day there's executives going to jail in China. There's CEOs, millionaires, billionaires. They're getting their head chopped off. When was the last time the U.S. when was the last time a U.S. put one of the richest people in this country in prison
for life, and not because it was a inter-imperial slap fight. Like, when was the last time the U.S. put Elon or Bezos in prison for massive corruption and abuses against his own workers and people, right? For embezzling, right? It's just, in the U.S., if you embezzle, you get rewarded with more. Like, oh, embezzle some more. Take some more money. Stick it in your pocket. Lie to your workers. Break your workers' legs. Who fucking cares, right? In China, you actually get your head cut off, right? And that's what people don't understand that, but nobody understands anything about Asia. So, oh well. Good thing the U.S. and its puppets, but that's what Hawaii was, and so when you have cooperatives, that what it does is, a cooperative is like, it's a business like any other corporation, except, right, you watch Democracy in the Workplace, right, but without instead of the richest and generally the whitest dude making decisions about what everyone's going to produce, how to produce, where to produce it, everyone democratically decides collectively the best, the way forward, right? Which is how you would, and then also decides collectively how much to reward themselves with, and the bonuses, right, don't decide everyone's salary, right? Not like one guy goes, I'm going to give you $5 an hour or $10 an hour, and I'm going to give myself $1 million an hour, right? That's not a democratic business, right? This is not like new, this is like how things were run in Hawaii and lots of other places. And they didn't formally talk about, they didn't like formally say, oh, what we were doing is a worker-owned cooperative under the socialist, this and that. Because if Hawaii did come out and say, we are doing a non-capitalist based, non-racialized, plantation-based system of sugar or cattle production or whatever it is, or restaurant. If they said, we're doing communist restaurant now, we're doing socialist cooperative restaurant, the U.S. would come in and say, what the fuck are you doing? We're going to coup the fuck out of you. Britain would come and say, what the fuck are you doing? You're not exploiting your workforce? We are Great Britain. We run on plantations and slavery and exploitation. Exploit that workforce, or we will exploit that workforce for you, you savage little communist brown people. That's why Hawaii didn't come out and say, oh yeah, what we're doing, hey everyone, hey, world run by capitalist, slave-loving Europeans. We're doing non-racist socialism here. Anyone want to come? Anyone want to come to Hawaii and fucking destroy us? Think about it, right? But especially white dudes socialists, they can't get this through their head. Like, you see how dangerous that is? You see how dangerous it would be to write in your newspapers and in your books, hey everyone, we're doing communism just like those savage Native Americans you like to kill and that you can't coexist with. That's why Hawaiians didn't write down, especially in the largely accessible public documents, what they were doing, because they wanted to tell Britain and America, oh no, you don't have any reason to do anything, but you don't really have any reason to coup us. But you see the danger you're in. It's like, have you ever been like, I don't know, you're in a place where you're on a bus. You're on a bus or public transport somewhere that works, right? I don't know. And there's lots of really nasty, I don't know, white dudes that are all in like a group, and they're all like making all kind of gross, sexist, horrible comments or something, racist comments or something. And you're like trying not to attract attention. And you're going, I don't know, or maybe you are, but it's dangerous because there's like 10 of them and there's one of you. And they're like, they hate trans people or something. I don't know. They say, I hate all these trans, and you're just like, you're not going to go, hey, everybody. Hey, fucking Nazis. I'm one person on this public transport. I'm a trans person. And hey, what's up? Or hey, I'm a woman alone at night. Hey, gang of 20 dudes that are saying all kind of sexist, gross things. And some of you are drunk. Hey, I'm a lone person that you are talking about sexually abusing. Anybody, certainly not. If you're in a group of people and you're like, oh, well, if these fuckers come over here, we're going to be able to do something about it. But if you're like alone and there's like 50 of someone else, you're just trying to survive. You're trying to survive that night, right? You're trying to survive that night. And maybe, someday you come back and be like, fuck, but you're not going to face with 20 people you could be dead. So Hawaii was like, let's try to practice, right? Let's project to the world. Let's not give them in. Let's not tell the racist capitalist barbarians of Europe and the United States what we're doing when we're doing our socialism under non-racist, we're not our cooperatives and our state-owned enterprises and our public infrastructure and our healthcare and our literacy. Let's not tell them about that, right? Actually, the Queen of England was offended and upset that Hawaii's queen, elected leader, that Emma would set the mother of universal healthcare, who knew the Queen of England. See, this you see how weird this is? The Queen of England had a close relationship with the Queen of Hawaii, Emma Kalani Kamaka Kaleleonana, Queen Victoria, right? On the height of the British Empire. But she also was super racist. But Emma connected with the Queen of England because the Queen of England had a great loss in her life. She lost her, and I can't see what's inside. Again, Hawaiians had to write everything down because if they wrote it down, the Queen of England would have said, "What are we allowing these little brown savages to have their own little nation? Fuck that Hawaii. Take that Hawaii." In fact, Britain did take Hawaii for several months. There was a period where Hawaii was a colony of Britain, or it was established by a British military officer. Hawaii is now property of Britain. Hawaiians had to fight and argue to the British royalty to get their independence back. Do you see? So this is not a situation where you can just be like, "Well, we're socialist. Fuck you all. We're a socialist." You know, that's like standing in a group of Nazis going, "I'm the communist. You want to fight with what you better have a fucking army." You know? Or you better like live. You live to fight the next day. Hawaii is 1 million people. Hawaii was trying to build an alliance of the age of China and other Asian and Pacific islands, right? That would be able to withstand the imperialist, capitalist, racist world, right? But they didn't have that. That's why they were biding their time, right? So this is the art of war. It's basic. This is even CIA clowns like Mr. Mustache know this. You don't fight unless you know you can win. You don't start a battle drastically outnumbered, right? Now, if the other side is outnumbering you, then they go like, "Yeah, let's start that battle." But you don't start a battle when you're outnumbered, right? This is like basic shit, right? But when you explain that to people in the United States and in the Western world, a lot of them will say, "Well, Hawaii wasn't socialist because this and this and this and that." And I heard in this textbook written by a racist white anti-communist that Hawaii had a monarchy or some shit. And it's like, it's not really those people's fault necessarily, because most of the information that you have access to easily is bullshit about Hawaii, right? And so you have to come to me for actual education about Hawaii, or other people that are telling you true stuff, right? But actually, there's like almost nobody who's gonna give you this. Because everyone in Hawaii and people who write about Hawaii are scared. They're really scared right now because the U.S. They're worried about the jet fuel in the water, but they're also, too many people in Hawaii right now are tied into the capitalist governments, the capitalist tourism industry, the capitalist military industrial complex. They work for the military industrial complex, tourism, big real estate in Hawaii. They all work for fucking like all the billionaires, right? Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon, they all have property in Hawaii. And everyone in Hawaii, not everyone, but the majority of people in Hawaii work for the richest people on the planet. They work for the most corrupt basically the most corrupt place in the United States, is by the actual numbers of how badly people are abused. It's the worst, right? So Hawaiians are scared to talk about the socialism that Hawaii actually practiced in the 1800s because they don't want to lose their jobs. And it costs $1.2 million for the average house in most of Hawaii. So that's why you don't hear this. But I don't give a fuck about that shit, because we are building what I hope we're trying to build is a Hui system. The cooperative is not necessarily like, oh, because it's a fun thing to do. It is a tactic, and it's a way of life, but it's also a tactic to be like, we have to build alternate non-capitalist economic structures that will fund and operate. That's practicing actual Marxist-Lenin, actual scientific socialism that will be capable of funding and moving that and leveraging that into more change later on. Because you can't just like just like wishing for change. This doesn't work. But this is This is why I keep saying people who are in the capitalist corporations, capitalist businesses. I mean, not to say you can't do any business. You still need electricity. You still need people to do all those things. Electricity, even make video games, make roads, make houses. Care work, all that work, right? But while you're operating within the capitalist structure, it becomes very hard to alter it. So you have to. Unions are good because they can help fight back internally in a capitalist structure, but you still rely on the paycheck from the boss, even in the union. So actually, I would argue like unions are good to temporarily gain some benefits to the working class under a capitalist structure, but in the longer run, it's not. In the short term to get people educated, but it's not in the long run. It's not really something that's gonna be able to do what needs to be done. Like I said, there's when the Chinese come in and go like, we had unions, but then the unions have to build more advanced structures than that sooner or later. You can stay stuck in the AFL-CIO, bourgeois white labor aristocracy, white dude unions, and they get bought off. And the U.S. is going, oh, people unionize, we buy them off, we buy off white men, we break the white man away from everyone else, and then that's it. That's the strategy. Again, the U.S. is the most advanced anti-communist place in the world. They don't know a lot of things, but they know one thing. They know how to stop change from happening. They know how to circumvent. They know how to COINTEL. They know how to break it apart. They know how to, demoralize and all that. And internationally, they do even worse than that. But inside, they know, and so that's why, So anyway, that's another thing you have to remember is that when you're speaking in English, you're already at a disadvantage because you're in the most capitalist, fucked up, racist language in the world. So yeah, and the people that are, anyway. So this is like, I've been going on and on about this thing. I should stop. Hawaii was a flourishing, even more developed country than many Western countries. The West came and destroyed us as they did Libya and Syria. That's my point. And I'm going to get back to hell. And then it's 1:27. I got to go, actually. But, Kalakaua, one of our leaders, had invented a subaquatic vehicle when Jules Verne was dreaming of 20,000 leagues into the sea. Hawaii was a living Wakanda, an indigenous future, more technologically, economically, and socially and politically advanced than any Western nation. So you probably have seen this before. In case you didn't, that's the actual subaquatic vehicle or submarine and a torpedo-proof vessel. So again, Hawaii didn't have a fleet of submarines, right? Let me put it to you this way. If Kalakaua had a massive, strong ally in China and other Asian and Pacific countries with advanced militaries that could withstand and fight off USS Boston naval vessels, as an example. That was the one that backed the U.S. military that backed the coup in Hawaii. If Hawaii could fend off and was able to stand toe-to-toe to U.S. and British military with some kind of alliance, right? That's part of why Kalakaua was going to circumnavigating the globe and trying to build alliances across Asia and the Pacific, right? If Hawaii could build that, then Hawaii could come out finally and say, Cuba could come out and go, hey, we're a socialist country. Hey, we're Venezuela, we're socialist, and if you fuck with us, this is our alliance. The thing is, without the alliances that Cuba has made and Venezuela has made, you can take a guess who's the really big countries they've made alliances with, and connections with. They would not be in the place. Now, Vietnam actually fought to the cost of millions of their people and their entire country being bombed to the Stone Age. Vietnam fought like hell for to be a socialist country against the U.S.'s wishes, right? Now, but it cost them a whole lot, right? And finally, this is like, yeah, we can't get this done. We'll go somewhere else, right? But if you come out and you go, you have to be prepared to defend that, not just militarily, intelligence wise, informationally, communicationally, sanctions wise. See, all these things are going to happen to you. So that's what Hawaiians are also, are worried about that. They're like, we can't just come out and go, we're socialists now, because Americans can go, wait, that's our enemy though. So if you are enemy, well, what do you? Maybe we got to get rid of you. So, and that's what you got to worry about that too. So it's understandable. So, but that's also why Hawaiians are building the advanced technological military might and alliances to say, we are socialist Hawaii. If you, the United States, attempt to coup, subjugate, invade, or destroy us, there will be war between Hawaii, China, right? That's what happened. Hawaii, China, other Asian and Pacific countries. We will all go to war with Europe, US, and the UK and France. And then there might have to be a war. But where was China then? China was not in a position to be doing that. Where was even Japan then? Japan was actually, unfortunately, coming into the side of imperialism and fascism, and then they did horrible things. And the U.S. is working with Japan later on, to attack China, Shimonoseki, and then later on in the 20th century, of course, right? Horrible anti-communist murders there, and Shinzo Abe is the descendant of these murderers under fascism and imperialism. That's why Japan is very close to the United States today. And you get to see anime and robots from Japan, and you don't see all the fun and actually better stuff from China. It's all bad China. Hawaii was not at the level of being able to withstand an imperial capitalist siege. So Hawaii's leaders made a choice to not, because there's some of the Asian community and Hawaiians in Hawaii in the coup, right? In this coup in the 1890s, backed by the United States, there were Hawaiian and Asians who wanted to fight the U.S. They wanted to go to war and undo this coup and undo the U.S.'s meddling, right? But right or wrong, it's not fun to be a leader, but right or wrong, because if you make the wrong choice, you make one choice, Hawaii falls to the United States, and it's terrible and it sucks. And it doesn't make the U.S. right? It's terrible. The U.S. illegally occupied, fraudulent treaty annexation, committed genocide, destroyed our universal healthcare system, did all these terrible things. But in another sense, if Hawaii and Asia, if the Hawaiians and Asians had chose to fight back, the United States might have just exterminated all the Hawaiians, and then there would be no Hawaiians. It would just be that place that's like just tropical white paradise, So that neither of those is a good future, and it's hard to say what would happen if there was a fight. But it's important to remember, like, you don't just randomly choose to fight. There's actually a movie. There's Warriors of the Rainbow is a movie about another indigenous people that is of the Austronesian language family that European colonizers subjugated and that were trading with the Chinese on Taiwan, who chose to fight against the Japanese, and they were half of the entire languages and entire peoples were exterminated. Like half of the tribes on Taiwan were exterminated with chemical weapons by the Japanese when they attempted to fight back. So, and not the thing is, there's no resistance. There's no decolonization movement for those people, right? There's no land back for them because they don't exist. They're just gone. They were wiped out completely. They don't exist anymore. And much of the rest of them, hyper-Christianized, culturally wiped out. And that was by U.S., the West, the U.S., and U.S.-backed allies like Japan. So that wasn't actually the Chinese. Taiwan is Chinese, but it wasn't the people of the Chinese people in that continent colonizing. It was actually Dutch, Japanese, and U.S.-backed fascists that's been most of the cause of the problems. The Chinese actually were trading peacefully. The mainland Chinese were trading with Taiwan peacefully by the record of the Dutch themselves. And then the Dutch came in and said, let's take the Chinese and the indigenous peoples on this Taiwan island and let's enslave all of them. That's literally what happened. So when people talk about some diseducated Westerner was in my thread the other day going, but you Hawaiians and the people of Taiwan and the people of Hawaii, you're so similar. You should want liberation for Taiwan by supporting the U.S. backed right wing party of Taiwan. So it's a Western anarchist somebody. Hawaiians, and it's explaining my own Hawaiianness and my own relationship to our fellow Pacific Islanders to me. From where the fuck are you from? 8,000 miles that way, right? It's like, no, I know who the Hakka people, I know who the Austronesian people are. Thanks for explaining my own people to me and why I have to support U.S.-backed right-wing nuclear war in the Taiwan fucking Strait, idiot. The thing is, those people have already been wiped out by people like you. When you enslave them all, European, You and your Dutch buddies enslaved them all and made them work in the Dutch called Taiwan the land of milk and honey. The Portuguese call it Formosa. The Dutch call it the land of milk and honey, and the Chinese are the worker bees. And then you massacred them. You know, Taiwan is like Haiti. Taiwan is like a slave plantation. You know, by Europeans. And then the Japanese came in and did a bunch of some more massacring and forced Han and Hakka Chinese to adopt Japanese ancestors and enforce Japanification, kind of like the indigenous people of Okinawa. But nobody cares a fuck about that, right? Because nobody knows shit about Asia or the Pacific in the West. You know why? Because it's one of the most communist places in the world. And the most capitalist place in the world, the Western world, that's the enemy. So you're never going to know anything true about them if they can stop you from learning it. So that's why it just makes it really hard, you know? It makes it really hard. Anyways, I'm like way the fuck off topic. The important thing is Hawaii was a place that the United States backed the overthrow of, right? That invaded, smashed the non-white country's building of actual anti-racist, socialist, thriving country. Was a blueprint that would later be used for countless Asian, Pacific Islander, Latin American, African, and other countries across the world. The U.S. process. Speaking of coups, right? So we're talking about people like Mr. Mustache Man, right? Mr. CIA, Chris Evans, Mustache Man. But this is not just a movie. This is what the U.S. has been doing. It has been doing for over a century, for multiple centuries. It's done it all over the world, right? It did it in Hawaii. And why does the United States do that? Is to prevent the spread of communism, to prevent countries moving in the socialist path, like actually. And Hawaii was one of these. That's a larger point I was trying to make going into that. And anyway, out of this, so you know, check out Kanaka Socialist, who's going to be putting something out in the future. But back to hell. So yeah, because we're way off topic, and we got to go. It's 1:37. So why is Elon Musk going to hell? So Elon, as somebody, I mean, speaking of coups, right? That's what I got onto the thing about coups. So what I'm saying is, so that one of the major points of evidence that a country is actually doing socialism, not whatever people think. A major concrete evidence is when the U.S. backs overthrow, a coup, and the destruction of that country's democracy. If the country is doing at the highest levels the needs and the deeds of capitalism and imperialism, the highest form of capitalism. If the country is a good puppet of capitalism, the country will not be overthrown because, again, it's a waste of money. Not that the U.S. cares, but it's not. We have better places to. It's a waste of time. They're already, you know, Japan is doing what we want under Shinzo Abe. Why are we going to waste time overthrowing that? You know, Colombia is doing a great job, you know, murdering indigenous people, you know, being fascist and being our good little helper in South America, death squads, and wiping out socialism and stopping it wherever we can. Bolsonaro is liquidating the indigenous people and setting Amazon on fire and sucking all the resources and sticking it in Canadian trading companies and benefiting U.S. Capitalists. Why are we going to overthrow Bolsonaro? We don't care about Bolsonaro. Fuck that guy. Who is this? Who's this Maduro guy, though? We got to get on that guy. Who's this Castro? Let's assassinate that guy. 700 times. Failed. Who's this evil guy, though? What's he doing? He's universal health caring. He's universal literacy accessing. He's giving all these great socialist things. Okay, wait, that guy, you got to get rid of that guy 3 times. Right? Let me say that again. When the U.S. conducts an invasion, a coup attempt, generally speaking, it is a great piece of evidence that the country was actually practicing building socialism, moving in the direction of communism. Because if it isn't, the U.S. has no reason to coup it. Right? The capitalist superpower has no reason. That's like imagine. Okay, right, going back to the Satan with all of his torture blood roses. If there's a torture blood rose that gives off pestilent clouds, right, of death, Satan is not going to take that rose out. Well, I'm not going to weed. That's a good rose. I'm not going to weed. That's a self-defeating, right? For the U.S. to coup Colombia, they'd be like, why am I going to take that rose out? For U.S. to coup its friend next to Palestine that's subjugating, it's not going to coup Palestine, the other one that we can't say. It's not going to coup that one because, well, it's doing its job, crushing the Middle East. It's a good death, torture, blood, plunder rose. The U.S., Satan is going to weed out the healthy plants, or it's going to weed out the weeds, right? So that's how the countries that are weeds for the U.S. that it tries to uproot, right, are the ones that are practicing the socialism. Not always 100. Sometimes I just really want them resources, sometimes, but especially when they're really insistent upon it, it's because it's leading on a path that could be detrimental to the great Satan. So anyway, so Elon, right? Speaking of coups, right? So, and Elon is another person. I know I bring this up all the time, right? But Elon Musk is a person who also is in the business of being an incompetent imperialist. Again, you throw too much money at, a class of people and a skin color and a gender of people for too long, you start getting more and more useless fools, right? Like Elon, right? Who come out on Twitter and then air out all the dirty laundry. Elon confesses to lithium coup in Bolivia. The billionaire CEO of Tesla and lithium exporting. I often drop this note, but this is not like some one-off random shitpost. Nothing. This is very important. The billionaire CEO of Tesla and lithium exploiting capitalist has admitted his role in the November coup that was from a couple years ago. CEO of the U.S.-based Tesla car manufacturer admitted to involvement in what President Morales has referred to as a lithium coup. "We will coup whoever we want, deal with it," was Elon Musk's response to an accusation on Twitter that the U.S. government organized a coup against President Evo Morales so that Musk could obtain Bolivia's lithium. Again, this was under the Trump presidency, under Mr. Bolton. That was one of Mr. John Bolton, Mr. Mustache Man. Where's Mr. I lost my mustache man. This was one of Mr. Mustache Man John Bolton's. Cooing is very hard. It's very hard. I want a job in the next administration, please. Bolivia was under his watch as well. Foreign plunder of Bolivia's lithium in a country with the world's largest known reserves is widely believed to be among the main motives behind November 10th, 2019. Lithium, a critical component of the batteries used in Tesla vehicles, is set to become one of the world's most important natural resources, etc. It is. There's actually a lithium OPEC forming in South and Central America. So this, you see, it's actually very important. It's very important. If lithium is the new oil, and it is one of the most important elements in a world moving into renewable energy and technology and electric batteries, right? If you are a capitalist superpower or an oligarch portion of it, like Elon, which benefits directly from it, you are, of course, directly benefiting and motivated and funding and backing and supporting the destruction of socialist countries. What do? Nationalize the resources for the benefits of all of the masses of the people, not their own capitalist classes or the global capitalist imperialist class, right? So if there is a socialism developing in the most lithium-rich country, and many other countries are going that way, number one, it's so dangerous. Why? Because when you have, again, like the weed thing, if Bolivia goes socialist, what if Ecuador? What if Nicaragua, Ecuador, all the neighboring countries, Chile, what if they all start moving in that tide, a red or pink tide, you might say, right? Or there's problems with that word, but what if countries in South and Central America start going socialist? Each one that goes becomes a fuel and encouragement to all the others, and you need that resource to maximize your profit as an imperialist capitalist. So the de facto administration of Union Añez, who was a fascist, she brought out the Holy Bible and said, all of you indigenous people will go back into your satanic jungles that you came from. So that's the other Satan, right? When the West calls you Satan, you're probably actually based. And when the global South and East call you Satan, no, they're probably not wrong, The de facto administration of Union Añez had already announced its plan to invite numerous multinationals into the Salar de Uyuni, the vast salt flats in Potosi, which hold the precious soft metal. Right-wing president candidate and running mate to Anya's Samuel Doria Medina proposed a Brazilian-Bolivian, again, Brazil, right? Fascist president, Mr. Bolsonaro, Brazilian-Bolivian project, which would use the lithium from the town of Uyuni. Meanwhile, from the letter from the coup regime foreign minister Karen Lungarek to Elon Musk, dated March 31st, says any corporation that you or your company can provide to our country will be greatly welcomed. So again, there's letters where the government of the right-wing U.S. supported government of Bolivia was like, please, Elon, please come to my country. We would love so much to have you come in and wipe out all these indigenous people. I'm sorry, just push them back in the jungle and get them out of our cities. The South and Central America is very different. Like a lot of the rural areas that are more outside the city are much more indigenous and non-white. And in the city is like the white strongholds. And the U.S. is kind of like, for various reasons, cities are disproportionately more non-white. And then the rural areas, a lot of them are a lot whiter. Like you look at the really red states, and the white areas of California, disproportionately suburb, rural, non-urban, right? But in the South Central America, it's different, right? And so when the white people in the city in South America go back to the jungle with you Indians, indios, sometimes they call them, and lots of other horrible pejorative terms for the indigenous peoples. So they call and they say, please come and help set up corporations. They call on Big Daddy America, come down here and set up some corporations here. Get these socialist indigenous people out of our city. I don't want to see them reading anymore. I don't want to see indigenous. I've actually seen like some of the people in Bolivia be like, my son went to Harvard and came back to Bolivia to be a great political leader and economist. And he has to sit down in a Starbucks and drink coffee next to Indians. Why are there Indians? Why are there brown people in my Starbucks? Why are there Indios, walking around with engineering degrees? Again, it's like mediocre white mustache dude and all of his South American counterparts, right? Mr. Harvard man. He went to Harvard, this guy, in The Gray Man. Not wanting to rub shoulders with the hoi polloi, those simple commoner savages. It's actually very upsetting for the white upper class of South America, right? I mean, not that we should care about their fucking racist feelings, but just imagine you haven't had to deal with having people who are, looking different, right? And not being white. It's kind of like when there's lots of black people in my Netflix movies like Resident Evil, or when there's lots of non-white people in Star Wars. Get these, what are the SJWs doing to my, pop culture? What are the black and brown and all these women people inside of my Star Wars, inside of my video games? Why is my She-Ra not like this? It's like, so when indigenous people under the MAS socialist movement started to make massive traction, again, right, there's nothing, it's only racism that you can look across your Starbucks, right? Or look across your coffee shop, or look across your engineering plant, or whatever, right? Or look across the Capitol building, and you see indigenous people that are, they're wearing different hats, they have colorful clothes, they don't look the same as you. But if you look at them and you go, those are savages and they have to go back to the jungle, what is that? We talk about that all the time. It's just your racism, that's your Western exceptionalism, that's your imperial non-cooperative. Different is bad and different has to be banished and different is satanic. And literally, that's what the Elon's candidate Agnes ran on. She held a giant Bible up like this and said, "We're gonna banish satanic Indians back to the jungle." Right? And it should be, we're going to cooperate with the different people and build mutual respect with the people that dress differently and have different hats and different colors. But that's not who the U.S. operates with. They don't give money to back those people. And Elon doesn't either. So anyways, okay, but anyways, it's almost 2. So, but so, what happened, after the coup, right? Bolivia, there was a massacre, right? In 2019, why is Elon going to hell? In 2019, the Sencata massacre occurred when Bolivian soldiers and police broke up a blockade at a YPFB gas facility. It was a week in the interim presidency. Rural and urban protesters blockaded a plant shortly after the ouster of Bolivian president. Why? Because she was going to take their nationalized resources and make them impoverished again. They had just come out of poverty, right? What happened in Bolivia, right? Bolivia, education, poverty alleviation, MAS, right? See if I can find it. See if Google doesn't misdirect me. Bolivia Development Assistance. I'm trying to find the actual statistics. So poverty increased in 2019 from 37 to 39%. And extreme poverty increased. But, I'm trying to find the exact, I can't find the actual statistics. I should have found it earlier. So the social programs that they had put in place, right, made huge gains, right? So like extreme poverty in Bolivia fell by 1/3 in the past decade. Bolivians believe that the policies of Evo Morales are the reason. However, critics, who's the critics? Western capitalists don't like Morales' socialist approach. But the thing is, there were great gains being made. Those were rolled back, and people were upset. They're like, we don't want to go back into poverty. We don't want this fascist, anti-indigenous president out here with her giant Bibles. We don't want privatization, and we don't want Elon Musk giving us 1% starvation wages to mine lithium for him and send it up to his Tesla factory. By the way, Germany was cutting a deal with the United States and Tesla to have a gigafactory in Germany, and Germany was going to take 97% of the revenue from Bolivia's lithium. So Germany and the U.S. were cooperating in imperializing Bolivia. The Chinese offered Bolivia 51%, actually more than half of the revenue from the lithium, on top of technology transfers. The U.S. and Germany were offering starvation and poverty. So that's why people were protesting. Their protests were part of nationwide blockades by supporters denouncing it ouster as a coup. Urban protests in El Alto against the new government desecration of the Uvipala, an indigenous flag designated Bolivian its national symbol in 2009. And then in the wake of this, security forces used live ammunition on demonstrators in the vicinity of the plant, as well as surrounding neighborhoods throughout the afternoon. 11 people, all of them civilians, and some bystanders were shot dead or fatally wounded. So basically what happened is and a lot of these were goose-stepping Nazis, the paramilitary forces. The Bolivian leadership came out with not rubber bullets and tear gas. They came out with, it would be like imagine if the police in the United States, let's say there's a strike happening at, Walmart. And police came out and just gunned down a bunch of strikers or protesters. Imagine at a Black Lives Matter, the police people did die and terrible things happened in Black Lives Matter protests. But imagine if the U.S. police just came out with like AR-15s and just started gunning Black Lives Matter protesters down. The police, not just some random mass shooter, right? Not that a lot of them are, of course, like police stands but imagine if uniformed police officers were ordered and allowed to just execute people in the street. Civilians, just gunning people down to make them go home, right? That happened in Bolivia with the backing and support of Elon Musk himself and the United States and all of its mustache Mr. Coup friends, all of its CIA buddies, and who work very hard to do coups, right? So when we talk about somebody who has helped plan a coup d'etat, it's a very difficult operation. It's a very difficult operation. That's what he was planning, right? So, that's what this. So all those deaths, there were dozens and dozens of people massacred in this way, by the Bolivian government and by entities attached to them, and they didn't do anything about it. They just go just gun everyone down. We don't care, right? So Elon is going to hell for that as well. Actual bad hell. Anyway, so that's another one. It's 154. So there's many more reasons why this guy fucking sucks. But I don't have nearly enough time to elaborate them all. I've talked about it all the time. But I think it's important for people to, it's not about Doom, obviously. I've been thinking a lot about Doom because I'm making my album. But I just put that up there because it's a fun thing to put up on the screen. And it looks like demons are eating Elon's pasty
little face. But it's like I'm making a whole album about this, and it's very much I think some people, it might be a little bit confusing for some people because some of the songs, it's like, are the demons bad or are the demons actually good? I can't tell. But it's kind of, that's part of the point, which is the West is very confusing. And the Western capitalist, imperialist, Christian world is very confusing because they'll simultaneously go, well, only good Christian civilized countries, the European countries are good Christian civilized countries. We don't commit war crimes, right? But then what are you doing in Bolivia, right? What are you doing? What are you doing in Vietnam? What are you doing in Iraq? What did you do? What did you do in Libya? NATO, right? That's confusing. Like who's Satan? Is Satan the black people down there that you're killing? Cause what? They needed to be saved from who? Gaddafi? But then you're the one committing all the barbarous acts. You're the one backing and getting everyone murdered in Bolivia, right? Are you right? Because what does he say? What who is the great Satan? If the Christian people in Christian nations like the United States come out here and they go like, we might have meddled, but we're only doing it, right, for a good cause, right? So if Christianity and good versus evil means the good people are over here and the bad people are over there, and we're the good people doing things for a good cause as the Christian American nation and the Christian European project, whatever. Why are you over there, right? Committing these war crimes against all these innocent people, right? Why are you over there? Why are you over there committing crimes against Hawaii? Why are you destroying our universal healthcare? Why are you ghettoizing us? Why are you committing genocide against Native Hawaiians? United States, to this day. Why are you banning Hawaiian language? Why are you ghettoizing? Why are you poisoning our water supply? If you're the good guy, you're doing this for the good reason. You're gonna save Hawaiians, right? You're gonna save Iraq from what? What, death and destruction? Why are you bringing a million deaths? So if it's confusing, right, it's because the entire Western world is confused as fuck, intentionally. So they can maintain, because if you're confused and diseducated, then they can maintain their power structure. If you got educated, right, it's hard to prevent the spread of again, right? The literacy rate and the actual education rate is part of what is spreading that communism, spreading that socialism. So they have to keep you very confused and messed up. So that's part of why also it's like, which is which. But also, it's a satirical album. But anyways, so it was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So I'm putting out this very soon. It's not out yet, but I'm putting out an album called "Decolonizers Are Going to Hell." That's the name of the album. It's not out yet. It's gonna come out in the next little bit. So look out for that. And it has 5 songs on it. I gotta finish figuring out a couple things, and look out for that. And it's gonna be all about colonization, and all about undoing that process. And it's also about the U.S. like falling apart, which is fine because it doesn't deserve to exist. But finally, before we go, watch this. Neofeud is also on sale, which is a game about. Speaking of Elon, this is a game that I made, and you might know it because if you watch the stream a lot, you probably have seen the trailer. But I'm gonna put it on because the game is on sale, and it is about neo-feudal kings and emperors and the capitalist system and structure. Actually, before that, I'm gonna do one really quickly that deals with exactly this topic. Let me see if I can find that. Neofeud, Let's Play 11. I'm gonna put a little small snippet of Neofeud in this because there's actually it directly deals with coups and cooing whoever we want. Oh wait, not that one. Nope. 12. 13. Okay, no. Okay, never mind. I'll just put the trailer up and then then I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens. Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller. Not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
God's had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Okay, anyways, yeah, so that game is on sale. Do consider checking that out. Yeah, we should get out of here. So, I don't think I'm gonna have time to. I was thinking about just putting the album out today, but I was like, I got a few more things I want to straighten out. But also I got lots of stuff happening today. Anyways, look forward to that coming out in the near future. Also look forward to we're gonna have I'm having a discussion next week with Professor Flowers. I gotta go check the exact schedule and who's on it. So I'm not, but we're gonna be not on this channel. So it's gonna be on the Professor Flowers channel. We're gonna be talking about Stranger Things, anti-communism and anti-blackness in Stranger Things is the topic. And also we'll be talking about the actually, let me take this down for now because getting in the way of stuff. But we're gonna be talking about we're gonna have other conversations probably going forward, and also trying to set up a panel with Luna Oy and other indigenous and global South people in the near future. So look out for that as well. Yeah, thanks a lot, Big Teal. I hope the album works out. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention this real quick before I forget. Speaking of metal, because I've been working hard on all this metal music. Later on today, I'll preview a little bit more of the songs maybe. We'll see what happens. But speaking of metal music, somebody brought up, the U.S. military, by the way, is unfortunately training to overthrow and make war in East Asia, including specifically shooting at pictures of Korean people inside of these training facilities in Hawaii, which is really fucked up. Anyways, Hawaii, but somebody commented, Hawaii needs to, what was it? Yeah. I support Hawaiians taking over tourism as a Hawaiian. My top proposal is metal bands aren't allowed to tour the world and then vacation here. You have to play here too, then you can get burnt on a dumb, hot, man-made beach like a weirdo all you want. So Ilima Long is another Native Hawaiian and independence, demilitarized, independent Oceania. And so I said, 100%, Hawaii is one of the most metal places. We have molten rock, that burns the sky red, and we have metal black charscapes. As another Hawaiian, I support unbranding from this tacky colonizer tourism bullshit. So that's another reason why I'm putting out that album, right? Is because I want Hawaii. Hawaii, the reality is, we see all these white sand beaches and all this idea of what Hawaii is. Hawaii is that white sand was brought in. A lot of it was an artificially made beach. They stole the sand from somewhere else. all these people just lying on the beach, getting their skin burnt off and getting skin cancer, and having the little tropical idyllic paradise on the backs of our stolen country. All of that stuff, right? All of that stuff is made up colonizer stuff, right? What you think Hawaii is not really Hawaii. Hawaii is a much more metal and based place, you know? Hawaii is a much more, you know, I have an entire song, right? I played this song on another stream, but there's a, you know, the Pele, the goddess, and what is it? What was that myth? Pele and Kahekili. Hawaii actually has incinerated charred black scapes. Where I'm trying to find the is this it? Trying to find the one with the picture of Pele. No, I can't find it. God damn it. Kahekili sled. There's one where there's a myth where Pele is the volcano goddess, okay? And Pele is, where the hell is it? I can never find it. Kahawali, that's what it is. Here it is. I got it. Is this it? No, that's not it. This is it. Legend of Pele and Kahawali. I want the one with a big picture. This one. Yeah. So, Pele, the volcano goddess. Yeah. I'm going to read it to you. I have a song about this. So, it was Kahawili, the handsome chief of Kapoho, who was riding down the slope. He was racing with his sled. His friend Ahua was against him. Kahawali ran to the back with his sled one time. Anyways, it's a long story. Let me just skip forward. Pele, the goddess of the volcano, represented here, right? She came down to... I'll just recite it for you. So Pele came from the volcano upon hearing of these people playing this game. These Hawaiians and their ali, their chief, were sledding in a competition down the hill, and all of the population was there playing music and dancing and having a festival. And Pele came down and said, "What are you doing on my mountain?" She came as a beautiful young woman. That's how she often comes. It's kind of like Deer Woman from Reservation Dogs. Actually, I think that the two, I want to say that those two myths are interconnected. Those two legends are because they're like the same a lot of the time. How Pele is very much like the Deer Woman, who is an attractive young woman, but if dudes come into her car and get in relationships, or they get into they ask her to get into her car. Or sorry, the dudes ask the Deer Woman get into the car, and they go on a date or they go somewhere, and if the dude mistreats the young woman, well, then he ends up dead. For the Deer Woman kills him. She kills all the toxic, shitty dudes and abusive misogynists. Pele finds these two these boarders sledding down the side of the volcanic mountain, and she's all like, "What are you doing? I would like to try." She races them on a sled, but she loses, and she finds out she had a less slicked board. The other board is nice and slicked up, so it's got more lubricant, so it slides faster down the mountain, right? And she says, "I want to use your board. I want to use an equal board to you, because you have that slicked board. I don't want to use this, inefficient board." And the chief says, "Whatever, you're not my wife. Get out of here." He basically like says, "Fuck you," to the Pele, the volcano goddess. And so she says, "Okay." She stomps her foot, and the earth quakes and spasms, and fire and brimstone and pyroclasm erupt from the volcano. Flaming rocks and burning streams of lava come searing down the mountainside, and all of these very demon-like beasts, fire beasts, come out of the pits, and all the dudes are looking up like, "Oh shit, what do we do?" Running and sledding away from Pele and this burning lava coming down the side of a black mountain. Talk about metal. She kills everyone and turns the two shitty toxic dudes into mountains, little dude-shaped piles of ash. And it says, "That's why you do not mistreat women." And then that was the end of all of those people. And there's a song on the album called it's "Treat Your Earth / Mother Right," because it's both a lesson about treating women right and don't misabuse women, because then you're a toxic patriarchal shithead and then you will not be part of this world anymore. in a normal healed culture, or you will be brought back into right. But also, it's a lesson for people. The earth is your mother, and if you mistreat your mother and you don't plant and harvest and tend to your mother right, the earth can kill you through starvation, and it also can kill you through pyronados and Category 7 hurricanes. And if you really fuck around, you're going to find out with global ecological annihilation. Because the earth will survive you. Your earth mother will survive you, not the other way around. But that's, anyway, so that's speaking of metal. So Hawaii is very metal, but that's also very metal stories. And you don't get to see that one. You know why? Because patriarchal, shitty, racist, white capitalism industry sellers don't want to sell the actual Hawaiian culture, which is much more egalitarian between its genders, right? Is LGBTQ plus friendly, is not capitalistic. And so you never get to see. Hawaii is metal as fuck. And also there's fucking lava and fire, and there's like shit that will eat you in the ocean all over the place. And there's like literal fire demons coming out of that rock. So so I want to rebrand Hawaii as the most metal place in the earth. That's my other mission. Anyways, that's the end though. Okay. It's raining hard. Thanks a lot, everybody, for watching. And Neofeud is, again, a game on Steam and itch.io. You can pick it up. It's on sale till July 30th. Neofeud is also a game that you can pick up. And if you can leave a very... it's like Stray. This cyberpunk cat game where you play a stray cat? Neofeud is like that, except you're playing a disabled non-white person trying to survive racist capitalism in a cyberpunk hellscape. So it is an adventure game in a cyberpunk universe. It's like Disco Elysium, which is based and communist, but Neofeud is made by an indigenous person and also more cyberpunk, and also better. It's just better game. It's just better game. Because I said so. No, I'm just kidding. Disco Elysium is also a good game. But check out. You can also find Neofeud on itch.io for Windows and for Mac and for Linux. It is a game that is on sale on there as well. And you can also get it and give the maximum revenue to the creators when you buy it there. Also, don't forget you can get other games such as, like, I talked about Luna a little bit, but I work with Luna Oi, our Vietnamese relative, and our Vietnamese relative with... I work with Luna on Decolonators, a game where you kick capitalist colonizer butts out of Vietnam. So when Mr. Mustache Man, right? When Mr. I'm sorry, I deleted his picture. When Mr. Mustache Man's, right? Mr. Mustache CIA man goes, we have to stop the spread of communism in Vietnam, like this, like John Bolton. Play a game where you kick John Bolton's ass, right? Play a game where you kick Mr. Aku, whoever I want, Elon's butt, and kick capitalist colonizer's butt. In Decolonators. You can also find such games books like Woman, which is a book by my partner Holly, a woman raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity, and it is a book about dunking upon Jordan Peterson and people like Elon Musk, who love their Western right-wing evangelical Christian worlds. And it is a book that is it's not about Elon Musk and Jordan Peterson, but it's a book about that culture, and it is a story of the Bible told through the eyes of Mary as someone speaking of patriarchy, enduring patriarchy in Christianity in the Bible. So consider checking out that book, and you can get it for free or name your own price. Also, you can get help us out in an ongoing fashion. Of course, you can direct donations through the Ko-Fi, or become a Patreon patron. Consider how much is the education worth, like $1, $3, $5, $10 a month. I know everybody is in a difficult time right now, but every little bit does help us as well, as we also have to go through this time. So consider helping us out at patreon.com/Neofeud, and you can also support, or you can follow at Silver Spook Games at you can follow at Silver Spook Games at octodon.social, or at Silver Spook Games at mastodon.social for games-related stuff on Mastodon, a decentralized, non-capitalist, federated, open-source platform like Twitter. However, you can also follow as I say, on the we cool whoever we want, Mr. Ugly Polo Shirt Mustache social media platform. The place that John Bolton has a Twitter account on. You can follow @SilverSpookGuy, and you can also, for my personal takes, streams going live and other information like that. And you can follow for game stuff, Silver Spook Games minus the E and Silver for the games related stuff, and like Neofeud and Neofeud 2 and stuff when the games are gonna come out, and other things like that. Also consider you can follow Terminus Cyberstar, which is the other cyberpunk RPG that I am the lead writer and content director of. It is a Deus Ex and System Shock-like game. And it is a game that is, as I said, it is done except for direct content testing and optimization. So consider following this Twitter handle if you would like updates on this game and when that comes out. And that game is, you can join the Discord as well over there if you would like to do that. And also don't forget, you can follow Holly. Thanks a lot, Holly, for modding as always. Mod VA and partner at Silver Spook Guy, and producer and writer for the K-Nix or the Lounge or the Summoning for music, media, miscellaneous mischief for Misfits and Monsters and ACAB. And Holly also is K-Nix also voices the super villain Western imperialist Miss Thatcher in Decolonizers. Magic Storytime is a Twitch streaming magic show that Holly also mods, and Holly is also the primary caregiver, parent to two Keiki or children here at the Silver Spook Cooperative, and domestic household manager, etc. And also post important things like Hawaii is closed. Thanks a lot for not coming right now. Yeah, you can also follow, as I said earlier, like Lee Mahana is Kanaka Socialist, is writing a book about, if you're interested in about the socialism in Hawaii stuff I was talking about and that history. Lee Mahana is currently working on a book about that specific topic, and also is working on has a YouTube channel, Lee Mahana, and was also interviewed on the Lunoi channel recently, and just started. So consider subscribing to that channel as well to get updates about Hawaii and socialism and things related to that, and decolonization as well. Anyways, you can also follow _1983 or at Positive Synergy, who is another native Hawaiian, educating on stopping desecration in Hawaii, stopping the poisoning of our freshwater supplies, doing land back and decolonization, and stopping the spread of capitalism, and doing the opposite, spreading the communism, and making music, including this album called Perfecting Perfection, which is about all of these very important topics in very good songs. So check that out as well. And yes, thanks a lot to all of our Patreon patrons. Thanks very much. It is greatly appreciated, as always. Keeps us going, and really, really appreciative of all of your support, because we would not be doing this without that support. You know, stuff. I mean, to be honest, I'm having to prioritize things because there's lots of work to do. So that's why streams are get a little bit shorter. This one's a little bit long, but especially the Twitch ones is going to be a little bit shorter for reasons. So yeah, I was doing basically like 15 to 20 hours of streaming a week, so that's a lot. But thank you very much for your continued support to make all this possible. Thanks a lot, Big Teal, everyone, for hanging out. Don't forget, Neofeud's on sale yet one more time. We'll be back later on in the evening for hanging out, and I might preview some more of the music that I just finished. I finished like several songs this week, so who knows? Maybe the album will come out later today. Maybe it'll come out in the middle of the Twitch stream. Anyways, until next time, keep your shades positive, be excellent to each other, and remember, if you don't want to go to the bad hell, not the good hell with the based Lil Nas, Satan, and indigenous peoples, but the bad hell where actual bad people go, don't be like Elon.